Hi, this is Gautam. So if you're a young investor or even an experienced one and you want to learn how to do thorough fundamental analysis from scratch, then this video is for you. Okay? So in this video, I will demonstrate how to do fundamental analysis and valuation of companies in the structural steel tube and pipe space in India. Okay, so specifically in this video, I'll be focusing on Hariom Pipes, APL Apollo, JTL Industries, and Hi-Tech, which are the companies operating in this space. Okay, see, although the focus will be on structural steel industry, but the methodology, the tarika, you can pretty much apply to other industries and companies as well. Okay, so this will be a long 90 to 100-minute video. And if you do plan to stick out for the entire length of the video, then I assure you that you'll develop a very good understanding on how to go about fundamental analysis and valuation. Okay, so this video is divided into 3 segments. In the first segment, we'll understand कि how to do industry analysis, वो हम समझेंगे. Second segment में how to do fundamental analysis of companies in this industry space, वो हम समझेंगे. Okay. Third segment में how to value a business. Okay. So that we'll understand. And within the first segment, that is industry analysis, हम क्या क्या देखेंगे? First, we learn what is the size of the market, both right now and how big the market can become in the future. So that second is how the market is segmented. Okay. Tailwinds and headwinds in the industry. Okay. Is the industry cyclical or structural? So you have to have an understanding of that. What's the nature of the competition industry? Okay. What is the respective market share of industry participants, companies in this space? What is the value chain? हम ये समझेंगे. Okay. And then how, second segment, which is fundamental analysis, उसमें हम समझेंगे what drives moat in a business. Okay. Value chain से की understanding से आप मोड कैसे समझ सकते हैं एक बिजनेस में, वो हम समझेंगे. कौन से फाइनेंशियल ऑपरेटिंग रेशियोज आपको टिपिकली नीड टू लुक एंड एनालाइज. How to read earning call transcripts, management quality, how you can assess. Okay? And then the third segment, valuation. Okay? We'll learn relative valuation and how to use relative valuation to compute returns. Okay, this is very interesting. Okay? Then the last point is कि how to do a reverse DCF. I'll demonstrate कि आप reverse DCF कैसे कर सकते हैं, and I'm happy to share my model with you as well, so that you can use it and do reverse DCF on your own. It's pretty quick and dirty. All right. So before jumping in, okay, let's understand each of these points that I intend to cover, and then we'll jump into the content right away. Okay. So these are 3 broad pillars: industry, fundamentals, and value. Okay. So let's dive into each of them, and तब हम उसके बाद हम structural steel pipe and tubes की industry हम and the players in this industry को analyze करेंगे. Okay. तो पहली चीज within industry analysis is total addressable market. You have to understand what is the size of the market, what is the size of the opportunity that you're looking at. Okay. Many a times total addressable market information is provided to you. Okay. Annual report में या investor presentations में, RHPs में, so on and so forth. But there are times when that information is not available. So you have to you should be able to estimate addressable market on your own. Okay, there are 2 methods to do it. One is top down and one is bottom up. In this video, we look at the top down method. Okay, top down method में आप क्या करते हो कि you compare the size of the current market with, let's say, a macro parameter like GDP. Okay, और आपको पता है कि अगर GDP grow होने वाला है इंडिया का, okay, तो the size of this industry, of this market will also grow, let's say, in some relationship with the GDP. तो वो टॉप डाउन तरीका हो गया, मोटा मोटा ऊपर से टॉप डाउन तरीका, एंड देयर इज अ बॉटम अप तरीका एज वेल. ओके, सो फर्स्ट थिंग इज टोटल एड्रेसेबल मार्केट, एंड देन सेगमेंटेशन. विद इन द इंडस्ट्री देयर कुड बी डिफरेंट सेगमेंट्स, तो योर कंपनी में बी विद इन वन सेगमेंट, और उस सेगमेंट को आपको देखना है एंड व्हाट इज द साइज ऑफ दैट सेगमेंट. ओके, ऑलराइट. थर्ड थिंग इज tailwinds and headwinds in the industry. Okay, tailwinds क्या हो गए? tailwinds एग्जांपल क्या हो गया? Let's say if you are analyzing a health hospital, health care, तो उसमें tailwinds क्या होंगे? tailwinds क्या होंगे उसमें कि aging population, people have more disposable income in their hands. Okay, so they want quality healthcare. Okay, and plus the penetration of beds in this country is very low vis-a-vis global peers. Okay, so all of these are example of tailwinds which we believe will propel the industry forward, and the companies in this space will do well. Okay, headwinds क्या हो गए आपके? Let me take the example of PVR, movie exhibition business. Okay, PVR Inox. So since the advent of OTTs, Netflix and Amazon Primes of the world, okay, a lot of people have started, ditching PVR Inox, or and they instead rather they wait and watch the movies in the comfort of their homes. Okay, so there is a that's an in fact that's an example of a structural change which is happening in that industry. Headwinds के और example ये हो सकते हैं कि let's say if there is a lot of inflation, people are feeling the pinch. Okay, तो the consumer discretionary spending will go down. तो जो भी discretionary uh, जो industries जो discretionary spend of the consumer पे depend करती हैं, they would not do well. For example, eating out, restaurants. Okay, and तो वो industries इतना अच्छा नहीं करेंगी if that is a headwind for them. Okay. The next one is कि you have to understand whether the industry is cyclical or structural. So cyclical के examples, automobile industry is very cyclical. So big ticket purchases on automobiles are often delayed by people during economic downturns. Similarly, hospitality and travel also is very cyclical. Tourism and travel decline हो जाता है when there is a weak economic phase. Okay, so and if we talk about banking, credit industry, so within banking of course is a cyclical industry, but within banking, if I talk about micro lending, okay, is very cyclical. Okay, similarly structural industry के क्या example होते हैं? Healthcare is an example of because see, healthcare, the industry doesn't suffer as much, okay, regardless of the state of the economy. Okay, तो वो healthcare hospitals एक example है structural industry का. तो anyways ये चीजें आपको समझनी है उस industry में. Then competition. Okay, you got to understand what's the nature of competition, how many players are there in the industry, what's their respective market share. Okay, an industry could be a monopoly कि केवल एक ही player है, या it could be let's say an oligopoly कि multiple तीन चार players हैं, या it could be a perfect competition. There are a lot of players. It's a very competitive industry. Structural steel pipe and tube is a very competitive industry. There are a lot of players. Okay, but as you would see in the subsequent discussion, कि large portion of this industry is unorganized. Okay, तो क्या है कि धीरे धीरे ऑर्गेनाइज प्लेयर्स बढ़ेंगे, अनऑर्गेनाइज का शेयर कम होगा. सो दैट्स हाउ दिस इंडस्ट्री विल ग्रो इन द फ्यूचर. ओके, नॉट जस्ट by taking share away from unorganized players, but also because of course as the country का GDP बढ़ता है, there is development, there is infrastructure growth in the country, real estate growth in the country, so the demand of steel pipes and tubes will only increase in the future. Okay, तो वो सब चीजें हम देखेंगे कि what are the factors which drive demand for an industry, because you have to study the demand drivers in an industry. Okay. Next very important thing is you have to study the value chain एक industry में, and you would in this video you'll understand why it's very important to study the value chain. Value chain क्या होता है कि value chain in any industry is the set of business activities that a company has to do. Okay, right from procuring raw material to processing it, making a finished product, and then delivering that or shipping that finished product to the end consumer. So you have to study the entire value chain. Okay, तो उससे आपको तो देन ओनली यू कैन बी अ गुड फंडामेंटल इन्वेस्टर. ओके, सो हम देखेंगे कि कैसे कैसे वैल्यूएशन आपका एनालिसिस आपको हेल्प करता है. ओके, ऑलराइट, द नेक्स्ट थिंग इज फंडामेंटल एनालिसिस इटसेल्फ. ओके, द फर्स्ट important thing is, see, you have to understand in any industry, okay, or in any business, what drives moat in a business. Okay, and what are the sources of those moat in a business. Okay, and if you understand the value chain, okay, then it helps you in assessing moat. Okay, हो सकता है कि एक स्टील पाइप ट्यूब जो कंपनी बना रही है वो एक तरीके से बना रही है, दूसरी कंपनी किसी और तरीके से बना रही हो सेम प्रोडक्ट. ओके, एंड प्रोडक्ट सेम है, अगर तरीका अलग है, मान लो दिस कंपनी सेकंड कंपनी ए कोई ओल्ड तरीके से बना रही है, कंपनी बी इज मेकिंग थ्रू अ वेरी मॉडर्न टेक्निक. Okay, through a very modern technique, then that modern or latest technology, through that latest technology, they may be able to save a lot of money in the manufacturing operations. Okay, so that could be a source of moat for this company B. Okay, ये भी हो सकता है कि कंपनी बी पूरी बैकवर्ड इंटीग्रेटेड है, पूरा रॉ मटेरियल से लेके सब कुछ खुद ही बना रही है. Okay, तो ऑफ कोर्स उसको खर्चा कम लग रहा है इन मेकिंग दैट फिनिश प्रोडक्ट. सो दैट्स हाउ, ऑल्दो एंड प्रोडक्ट सेम है लेकिन तरीका बनाने का कुड बी डिफरेंट. Okay, so which would reflect in your procurement of raw materials and manufacturing operations. Okay, तो आपको वैल्यू चेन पढ़ना जरूरी है. इनफैक्ट जिस तरीके से कंपनी मार्केट में जा रही है, अपनी प्रोडक्ट्स बेच रही है, देयर कुड बी सम डिफरेंशिएशन इन दैट एज वेल, वो भी हम देखेंगे. ओके, दैट आल्सो कुड बी अ सोर्स ऑफ डिफरेंशिएशन और मोट इन अ बिजनेस. तो वैल्यू चेन समझना जरूरी है. ओके, नेक्स्ट ऑफ कोर्स फिनेंशियल रेशियोज कौन से देखने हैं, कैसे इंटरप्रेट करने हैं, एंड नॉट ओनली फॉर दिस कंपनी बट फॉर ऑल द की कंपनीज इन द इंडस्ट्री, वो आपको फाइनेंशियल रेशियोज देखने हैं. एंड नॉट ओनली फाइनेंशियल रेशियोज, यू हैव टू लुक एट ऑपरेटिंग रेशियोज इन दैट इंडस्ट्री एज वेल. सी, ऑपरेटिंग रेशियोज चेंज होते रहते हैं. फॉर वन इंडस्ट्री दे आर डिफरेंट, फॉर अनदर इंडस्ट्री दे वुड बी डिफरेंट. विद इन वन इंडस्ट्री ऑफ कोर्स सेम होंगे, लेकिन अक्रॉस इंडस्ट्रीज सो ऑपरेटिंग रेशियोज डिफरेंट होंगे. सो तभी आपको इंडस्ट्री का जो जो इंडस्ट्री आप एनालाइज कर रहे हो उसके ऑपरेटिंग रेशियोज आपको समझने हैं. दैट्स व्हाई इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि आप अगेन इंडस्ट्री एनालिसिस करो, तभी आप समझोगे ना उसके ऑपरेटिंग रेशियोज को. ओके, वो भी हम सब देखेंगे. नेक्स्ट इज अर्निंग कॉल ट्रांसक्रिप्ट्स. आपको यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट टू लुक फॉर इन अर्निंग कॉल ट्रांसक्रिप्ट्स एंड हाउ टू मेक सेंस ऑफ इट. ओके, एंड यूज इट एज एन इनपुट, ओके, टू योर फंडामेंटल एनालिसिस. तो दैट वील सी. And the last thing, very important, especially for small companies, is you have to make a judgment on the management quality. Okay, because you're for a small company, especially you're betting on the jockey, okay, than anything else. Okay, अगर मैनेजमेंट अच्छा है तो कंपनी को पार लगा देगा. तो यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड द क्वालिटी ऑफ द मैनेजमेंट. कैसे करोगे? कॉन कॉल्स में पढ़ के क्या देखना है वो भी हम समझेंगे, एंड एनुअल रिपोर्ट में भी यू कैन गेट अ सेंस कि मैनेजमेंट कैसी है. ओके, एंड लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट इज हाउ डू यू वैल्यू अ बिजनेस. एक तो रिलेटिव वैल्यूएशन होता है. रिलेटिव वैल्यूएशन में यू कैन ऑल्सो कंप्यूट द रिटर्न. हम देखेंगे देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ, देयर आर टू थ्री वेज इन विच यू कैन कंप्यूट द रिटर्न यूजिंग रिलेटिव वैल्यूएशन. तो वो हम समझेंगे. वेरी प्रैक्टिकल तरीका. द फाइनल थिंग इज रिवर्स डीसीएफ. वी वुड नॉट डू अ फुल ब्लोन डीसीएफ. अगर आप फंडामेंटल एनालिसिस कर रहे हो, इन्वेस्टर बनना चाहते हो, तो आपको हमेशा फुल ब्लोन डीसीएफ करने की जरूरत नहीं है, थ्री शिफ्ट मॉडलिंग करने की जरूरत नहीं है. ऑल्दो ऑफ कोर्स दिस इज बेनिफिशियल, बट लेट्स से इफ यू डोंट हैव द टाइम एंड एपेटाइट, यू नॉट रियली एन अकाउंटेंट, यू नॉट रियली इनटू फाइनेंस, तब भी तो, लेकिन वो सब मत करो. लेकिन आप रिवर्स डीसीएफ सीख लो, क्विक एंड ईजी होता है. उससे आपको पता लग जाएगा रिवर्स डीसीएफ से कि व्हाट इज द इम्प्लाइड ग्रोथ, यू नो, so what is the growth rate at which the company in question should grow to justify its current market price. तो उससे पता लग जाएगा कि अगर मान लो कोई भी वैल्यू है कंपनी की मार्केट में, तो इस मार्केट प्राइस को जस्टिफाई करने के लिए आइडली कंपनी को कितना ग्रोथ दिखाना चाहिए, फॉर एग्जांपल. तो फिर आप जजमेंट देख सकते हो, यार ये ग्रोथ रेट सेंस बना रहा है कि नहीं बना रहा है. कि मार्केट ने इतना ज्यादा वैल्यूएशन कर दिया, इसका मतलब मार्केट को बहुत ज्यादा ग्रो करना पड़ेगा इस वैल्यूएशन को जस्टिफाई करने के लिए. कंपनी को बहुत ज्यादा ग्रो करना पड़ेगा इस वैल्यूएशन को जस्टिफाई करने के लिए. ओके, तो अगर ऐसा लग रहा है तो फिर आप यू कैन स्टे अवे फ्रॉम दैट कंपनी. तो बहुत रिवर्स इससे बहुत एक क्विक तरीका होता है टू form an assessment in the regarding the valuation of a business. Okay, let's move forward now. All right, so these are the sources that you can use to industry analysis, industry research. IPO, the RHP जो that is released, the RHP that is released before a company goes for an IPO, that is a very useful document. Okay, it has a lot of good information on the industry. Annual report में there is a management discussion analysis section which also is pretty good in understanding the industry. जो क्रिसिल की जो रिपोर्ट्स होते हैं, केयर और क्रिसिल की रिपोर्ट्स होते हैं, they are also pretty good. In fact, in this document, have you leveraged a lot of Crystal ka report in analyzing this industry. Okay? Research and consulting firms, they also publish out reports, in on industries, so wo helpful hote hain. IBF India Brand Equity Foundation is also a good source. And then there are various industry bodies, like let's say if you are analyzing HDFC AMC or you or Aditya Birla सन लाइफ एएमसी और एनी एएमसी, देन म्यूचुअल फंड की बॉडी होती है एम्फी करके, एसोसिएशन ऑफ म्यूचुअल फंड ऑफ इंडिया. तो यू कैन गो टू द वेबसाइट एंड यू गेट अ लॉट ऑफ डेटा दैट यू कैन यूज टू एनालाइज गेट अ सेंस ऑफ द इंडस्ट्री, म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री. सिमिलरली इफ यू आर लेट्स से एनालाइजिंग एन ऑटोमोबाइल कंपनी, तो यू कैन गो टू सियाम. ओके, सियाम का वेबसाइट, और सियाम में यू गेट अ लॉट ऑफ गुड इन्फॉर्मेशन. ओके, तो और इंश्योरेंस अगर आप अप्लाई लेट्स से एनालाइज कर रहे हो, तो यू हैव IRDAI, जो रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटी है इंश्योरेंस में, उनकी वेबसाइट में जाके यू कैन गेट अ लॉट ऑफ गुड इन्फॉर्मेशन. जनरल इंश्योरेंस कर रहे हो तो IRDAI प्लस जनरल इंश्योरेंस काउंसिल से आपको काफी इंफॉर्मेशन मिल जाएगा. ओके, सो कोई भी इंडस्ट्री में हो, ओके, तो आपको देखना पड़ेगा कि उनकी बॉडी कौन सी है. स्पेशली अगर रेगुलेशन ज्यादा है उस इंडस्ट्री में, तो दे विल बी सम बॉडी, और जाके आप खुलकर उनका रिपोर्ट देख सकते हो वहां पे. ओके, investor presentations, again good source. Then con calls. Okay, so these are some of the sources that you can sift through to understand the industry. Okay, now let's move forward. So now we are starting with this industry. So the first thing is, see again, the source of this information is CRISIL. Okay, तो CRISIL का एक बहुत अच्छा report है. So regarding steel, okay, this report says, and they in turn they have got this information from World Steel Organization. So every industry would have some body. Okay, तो वहां से इन्होंने ली है वर्ल्ड स्टील एसोसिएशन से. So if you see, India का penetration right now per capita steel consumption is 98 kgs per person. It's very small vis-a-vis China and Japan and all the other countries that you see in this list. Okay, so it shows the extent of under penetration. When there is a lot of under penetration, then of course there could be a lot of growth coming in the future years. Okay, by the way, India looks under penetrated in almost all industries. Okay, लेकिन कुछ industries में there is a lot of under penetration, especially steel में. okay? क्योंकि इंडिया में अभी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर रियल एस्टेट डेवलपमेंट होना बाकी है, okay? That's why काफी ग्रोथ आ सकता है फ्यूचर में, okay? So this kind of gives you a sense of the growth that you could expect moving forward given the massive underpenetration, okay? अब हम स्टील डिमांड की अगर बात करें, क्या सो अगर आप देखो कि द फिनिश्ड द जीडीपी in the country, the real GDP, not the nominal, the real GDP has grown what at like is growing at 7%, 7-8%. Okay, all right. So, and if you compare it with the growth rate of steel, finished steel demand, you would see कि finished steel का demand is around 1.5 times of that of real GDP का growth. Multiplier जो है that is around 1.5 का. अगर आप banking industry देखो कि वहां पे भी एक multiplier चलता है. Okay, GDP if GDP grows at 7-8%, banking is growing almost at 2x the real GDP growth. The credit lending industry. Okay, because any country which has to grow, okay, the economic activity in that country is fueled by credit growth. उधारी लोगे ना बैंक से या कहीं से, तभी तो आप फंड करोगे इन्वेस्टमेंट्स या डेवलपमेंट. ओके, सो बैंकिंग का भी एक मल्टीपल चलता है, क्रेडिट इंडस्ट्री का भी मल्टीपल चलता है, वेरी सिमिलर टू स्टील. Okay, so the multiple in this industry is 1.5x. Banking में the multiple is slightly higher. Credit industry में the multiple is around 2x. Okay, so again this is something that you can use to estimate the future size of the market. कि अगर let's say इंडिया का जीडीपी would grow at real terms में, real जीडीपी ग्रो करेगा 7-8%. Okay, so you can expect कि steel would grow at what at about 10-12% in the future. Okay, right. तो आप इससे एक अनुमान लगा सकते हो टोटल एड्रेसेबल मार्केट और स्टील के लिए. ओके, अब सेगमेंट की बात करते हैं पहले. सी स्टील इंडस्ट्री का सेगमेंटेशन कैसे है. देयर इज फिनिश्ड क्रूड स्टील से यू मेक फिनिश्ड स्टील एंड देन यू मेक सेमी फिनिश्ड स्टील. सेमी फिनिश्ड स्टील जो होता है उससे यू मेक बिलेट्स, ब्लूम, स्लैब्स, अभी हम देखेंगे नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में. लेकिन जो फिनिश स्टील जो होता है, देयर इज टू टाइप्स ऑफ फिनिश स्टील. देयर इज नॉन एलॉय, उसमें आप कुछ मिक्स नहीं कर रहे हो, एंड देन देयर इज अ एलॉय स्टील जिसमें आप कुछ कुछ मिक्स कर रहे हो. ओके, within the non-alloy steel, okay, you have long products and you have flat products. तो अगर आप long products देखो तो ये सड़िया दिख रही है तो these long products, these bars and rods, जिसे हम सड़िया बोलते हैं, TMT सड़िया, what have you, these are example of long products, and then these are flat products. Okay, तो उनको flat करके coil बना दिया है. Okay, okay, और इनसे ट्यूब भी बना सकते हैं. Okay, तो ये है आपके flat products के example. Okay, and then आपके सिमिलरली आपका स्टेनलेस स्टील या एलॉय स्टील में भी सिमिलर एक आप सेग्रीगेशन होता है. ओके, हमारा जो सेगमेंट है, आर सेगमेंट इन दिस एनालिसिस इज दिस फ्लैट सेगमेंट. ओके, राइट, विच विल सी इन द सब्सिक्वेंट स्लाइड्स. लेकिन इंडस्ट्री का सेगमेंटेशन स्ट्रक्चर समझना जरूरी है, एंड देन उस स्ट्रक्चर और सेगमेंट का साइज कितना है वो भी समझना जरूरी है. दैट विल सी. ओके, लेट्स मूव फॉरवर्ड. So here we talk about the different types of steel pipes. Okay? Steel pipes and steel tubes is essentially the industry that we'll be looking at. Okay? So, and when I say steel pipes and tubes, essentially we'll be focusing here. And by the way, not just here, okay? We'll be in fact looking at this entire basket of flat products. Okay? That is our industry, not just pipes and tubes. Okay? Here in the next slide, in this slide, we are talking about key overall steel pipes. Okay? So pipes, there are two types of pipes. One is the first three, they are your welded. ये welded pipes हैं जो weld करके बनाए जाते हैं. Okay, and then the last ये welded है, and the last one seamless pipe is non-welded, जो बिना weld करके you make without a weld. Okay? So within welded pipes, okay, you have SAW pipe. ये first two are called your SAW, which stands for submerged arc weld. एक तरह की welding होती है. Okay? Then the second वाला is this वाला, or rather third वाला is your ERW pipes. हम समझेंगे अभी. Is your electric resistance welded pipe. So this is again another type of weld pipes. इसका we look at the applications of all these pipes. The third is of course your seamless pipes. Okay, so welded के अंदर you have SAW and you have ERW pipes, and then seamless is the without welded वाला, you have another type of pipe. तो ये इस टाइप से pipes होते हैं आपके. Okay, now let's try to understand the difference between these three pipes. Okay, और उनके applications क्या होते हैं. All right, see, ERW pipe, which is the electric resistance welded pipe that we saw. Okay, ये particular electric resistance welding से बनता है. Okay, and then you have submerged arc weld, okay, which is again a different type of welding, and then you have seamless pipe, which is welding is not used in making these pipes. So you kind of, if you see these, the first two, okay, SAW pipe, you would see these are like typically pretty big in diameter, तो ये किस चीज के लिए यूज होते हैं? दिस इज योर ऑयल एंड गैस, ये वाटर ट्रांसपोर्ट के लिए, या हाई प्रेशर जहां पे है तो उसके लिए यूज होते हैं। दीज पाइप्स, ये जो पहले वाले, okay, ERW pipe on the other hand, they are called your structural. Their use is largely structural and light fluid transport के लिए. Okay, तो अगर if you see fences, garden के fences, या फिर your, let's say even for pre-engineered buildings, okay, you use these pipes. So they have a lot of applications which we'll discuss subsequently. Okay, construction, real estate, so on and so forth. So these are largely for structural uses, ERW pipes. Okay, और हम यही डिस्कस करेंगे इस वीडियो में. एंड देन या यू हैव योर सीमलेस पाइप एज वेल. ओके, सीमलेस पाइप्स अगर आप देखो, दे कैन लुक प्रीटी सिमिलर टू ERW पाइप, seamless pipes. Okay, लेकिन they don't have a weld. Okay, so they are used for very high pressure and high temperature applications. Okay, and but look and feel इनका काफी ERW से similar होता है, and they are very, it's the cost to produce them is pretty high. Okay, they on ERW pipes on the other hand, इनका cost of production is on the lower side. Okay, right. So this is the sense that you need to get for all these three types of pipes. Okay, now let's move forward. Now, because we understood we are within the entire gamut of steel products, okay, what we are looking at is ERW, okay, which is largely used for, which is ERW का मतलब electric resistance welded pipes, tubes and pipes. Okay, तो हमारा ये मार्केट है, हमारा ये इंडस्ट्री है विद इन दिस लार्ज इंडस्ट्री. ओके, सो फॉर ERW के लिए हमें इसका टैम समझना है फॉर दिस सेगमेंट. मार्केट अभी कितना है करंट, एंड फ्यूचर में क्या हो जाएगा. Okay, so again, this is something I pulled from Apollo ka presentation. Again, investor presentations again is a very good source of information. So in FY24, जो crude steel का production in India was 139 million tons. Okay, this, ये जो 139 million tons है, okay, और अगर if we compare it with globally अगर हम देखें, if you look at this chart, okay, the structural steel tubes, okay, which is largely the ERW tubes, okay, as a percentage of the entire steel market is 6.5%. Okay, तो क्या रहा है कि ERW जो स्टील हैं आपके, या स्ट्रक्चरल स्टील्स जो हैं आपके, okay, उनके ट्यूब्स जो हैं, that is 6.5% of 139 tons. तो अगर आप ये मैथ करो, if you do this math, this would be closer to around 9 tons. Okay, so 9 tons of steel pipes and tubes, of ERW steel pipes and tubes, is the current size of the market, is the current addressable market. Okay, फ्यूचर में एज पर दिस चार्ट, हम बोल रहे हैं कि क्रूड स्टील का प्रोडक्शन वुड इंक्रीज टू 210 मिलियन टन्स. क्या हम मिलियन टन्स की बात कर रहे हैं? सॉरी, दिस इज ऑल मिलियन टन्स. सो अगर अज्यूम कर लें कि 6.5% 7% हो जाता है, अज्यूम कर लें. तो ये, आई नो दिस इज अ वेरी हाई इन द स्काई assumption. तो 7% ऑफ 210 कितना होगा? इट वुड बी क्लोजर टू 14 या 15. Okay? तो ये जो मार्केट होगा ERW का स्टील पाइप्स एंड ट्यूब्स का, दैट वुड इंक्रीज फ्रॉम 9 मिलियन टन्स ऑफ स्टील पाइप्स एंड ट्यूब्स टू 15 मिलियन टन. okay? इन दिस टाइम फ्रेम. अगर हम ये मोटा मोटा मैथ्स करें, जैसे टॉप डाउन मार्केट एस्टिमेशन, okay? तो इतना बड़ा बन सकता है मार्केट फ्रॉम 9 मिलियन टन्स टुडे, ERW. okay? So this is a high in the sky top down तरीका. Okay, so larger point is you can use this kind of back of the envelope maths to kind of get a sense of what could be the future size of this particular segment of steel tubes and pipes. Okay, let's move forward now. We saw a quick top down estimation of the total addressable market. Okay? You can also do a bottom up estimate of the total addressable market as well. Okay, bottom up हम डिटेल में अभी नहीं घुसेंगे because वीडियो बहुत लंबा हो जाएगा, but I'll give you a flavor as to how you can go about doing it. Okay, so to estimate any market bottom up, आपको you have to look at the end user industries. Okay, for example, let's go to APL Apollo का annual report. There I'll try to give you a sense कि कैसे आप कर सकते हो. Okay, let me switch over to the annual report. All right, so APL Apollo का annual report is up. Okay, so if you look at real estate में, okay, they go on to say that according to this body, the real estate sector is projected to reach 1.3 trillion USD by 2034 and will reach around 5 trillion by 2047. Okay, so this time frame में, okay, it will grow around, if you do that math, it will be around 11-12% of CAGR growth. Okay, and they also have given you a sound bite that 7 CR additional housing is required by 2030. Okay, similarly ऐसा इन्होंने काफी इंडस्ट्रीज के बारे में बोला है. Okay, so what you can do is, and the other thing, the other piece of information that you need is, if you go here, just making sure my screen is recorded. Okay, this is their investor presentation. They have a very good investor presentation, APL Apollo. Okay, so if you see, they talk about कि हाउसिंग में कितना स्ट्रक्चरल स्टील ट्यूब लगता है. दैट्स व्हाट दे टॉक अबाउट. Okay, so they say कि सीमेंट अगर if you require per square feet of housing construction, let's say if you require 125 cement, then आपका you what portion आपका steel tube लगता है, which is 41. Similarly, they have given for infrastructure, they have given for other industries as well. Okay, in fact, now they are venturing, APL Apollo is actually venturing into making solar structures, steel tube wale. Okay, Hariom is also doing the same. Okay, so यहाँ पे they have actually tried to estimate the size of this market bottom up तरीके से कि अगर ये रेजिडेंशियल रूफटॉप बनाएंगे, okay, उसमें आप व्हाट इज द कितना ट्यूब लगेगा. okay, okay, सिमिलरली ग्राउंड मीटर्स अगर बनाएंगे उसमें कितना ट्यूब लगेगा. okay, एंड देन यू कैन डू दैट मैथ कि अगर इतना ट्यूब का रिक्वायरमेंट है, तो इनफैक्ट दे हैव डन दैट मैथ फॉर यू कि टोटल रिक्वायरमेंट होगा इतना, अराउंड लेस देन 1 मिलियन टन ऑफ ट्यूब विल बी रिक्वायर्ड बाय सोलर स्ट्रक्चर अलोन. ओके, तो आप भी ये तरीका यूज करके यू कैन डू अ बॉटम अप एस्टिमेशन. वी आर नॉट गेटिंग इनटू बॉटम एस्टिमेशन राइट नाउ फॉर द स्कोप ऑफ इन दिस वीडियो. ओके, ऑलराइट, लेट्स मूव बैक. तो इनफैक्ट सो फ्लिप ऑन नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. इनफैक्ट क्रिसिल ने मार्केट साइज एस्टिमेशन किया हुआ है. इनफैक्ट एपीएल अपोलो ने भी किया हुआ है. सो आई एम जस्ट वॉकिंग थ्रू व्हाट क्रिसिल हैज डन. सो राइट नाउ FY24 में, okay, the size of this ERW steel tubes and pipe का market, which is the structural steel का market, is 9 million ton. हमने अभी वो मैथ्स भी किया था तो देखा था 9 million टन ही आया था. Okay, and they are saying that this 9 million tons of steel pipes and tubes in the structural space may grow to around 13 million tons by FY29. तो मतलब करीब 8-9% के ग्रोथ रेट में उन्होंने एस्टिमेट किया है क्रिसिल ने. ओके, right? So any which ways, a larger point is you can just take the growth rates from these industry research or from these companies. Okay, so if you don't want to do it on your own, but I'll still encourage that at least you try to think from a top-down perspective, as at least in trying to get a sense of the future market size. Okay, let's move forward. Right, so let's look at the competition in this space. So in the ERW space, you see, in fact, both in ERW and SAW, okay, there's a lot of competition. Okay, in ERW, okay, the market is more fragmented vis-a-vis in SAW. We see there's a large portion of unorganized segment in ERW. Okay, so unorganized is around 54. Okay, बहुत fragmented है ERW vis-a-vis SAW. तो क्या होगा over time? Unorganized कम होगा, organized players ज़्यादा बढ़ेंगे. So there is scope of growth that way as well. Okay, but again you get a sense कि Apollo का largest share है. Okay, and then you have these all these smaller players which kind of make up the remaining 50% of the entire market का share. Okay, Apollo is the largest player in the industry. Okay, in SAW, okay, the largest player is Jindal SAW. Okay, all right, let's move forward. अब हम बात करते हैं वैल्यू चेन की. Okay, see, as we discussed in the beginning of the video, understanding value chain is very important. Okay, so पूरा मैन्युफैक्चरिंग वैल्यू चेन है ये. प्रोक्योरमेंट एंड मैन्युफैक्चरिंग वैल्यू चेन है ये. there of course there are other steps in the value chain that you need to do as well, but this is procurement and manufacturing value chain कि कैसे प्रोडक्ट प्रोक्योर करके बनाते हो. Okay, तो फर्स्ट इज कि आयरन ओर इज प्रोक्योर्ड फ्रॉम NMDC, which is the National Mineral Development Corporation of India. So वहां से आप आयरन ओर प्रोक्योर करते हो. Iron ore, then that is used to make sponge iron. Sponge iron looks something like this. Okay. Okay. Then from sponge iron, okay, you make something which is called MS billets. So billets, mild steel bullet, mild steel billets, they look like this. जो slabs हैं, okay? ये slabs को use करके, billets को use करके, what you do is you make these hot rolled strips. Okay, okay. तो आप उनसे ये बनाते हो और जो hot rolled strips से, okay, the next step is आप इनसे ये दोनों टाइप के पाइप बनाते हो. या तो those pipes could be square or rectangular shape, or they could be your rounded. Okay, and then in turn आप उसके बाद जाके scaffolding करते हो. Scaffolding are nothing but the structures that you use to kind of make buildings, construction activities के लिए, इस तरह से. Okay, so ये पूरा value chain है. Okay, right? So अभी थोड़ी देर में समझ में आ जाएगा कि why understanding this value chain is important. Okay, now there are players like Hariom, okay, which do all these steps to manufacture these end products. Okay, they source the iron ore from NMDC and then do all of these steps to make MS pipes and tubes. Then larger players like Apollo, in fact, most of the players, what they do is they are not they what they do is they directly procure hot rolled strips or coils from the market. Okay? तो उनका रॉ मटेरियल अपोलो का वो यहां से स्टार्ट होता है. Okay? Okay? वो ये यूज करके ये प्रोक्योर करते हैं फ्रॉम टाटा स्टील और जिंदल स्टील और वहां से ये बनाते हैं. Okay? लेकिन हरिओम इज बैकवर्ड इंटीग्रेटेड, तो उसका हम डिफरेंस देखेंगे. हरिओम पूरा खुद से ही करता है. Okay? Alright. Let's move forward. One thing more which I should mention कि see there are two ways you can make billets. Okay? ये वाला intermediate raw material है billets. Okay? Either use sponge iron from sponge iron which you can make from iron, or you use recycled steel which is called patra. Okay? पतरा स्टील जो होती है वो थोड़ी चीप पड़ती है क्योंकि रिसाइकल्ड होती है, बट द क्वालिटी ऑफ द एंड प्रोडक्ट दैट यू मेक फ्रॉम पतरा स्टील इज ऑन द लोअर साइड. उसके भी इंप्लीकेशंस होते हैं. ओके, ऑफ कोर्स अगर लोअर क्वालिटी का बनाओगे एमएस पाइप्स एंड ट्यूब्स तो उसका प्राइस मार्केट में कम मिलेगा. ओके, लेकिन आप रॉ मटेरियल में पैसा बना लोगे. ओके, सो डिफरेंट कंपनीज डिफरेंट स्ट्रेटजीज यूज करती हैं. ओके, एपीएल अपोलो एज अ पॉलिसी डजंट यूज पात्रा एट ऑल. ओके, हाईटेक डजंट यूज पात्रा एट ऑल. वो हम देखेंगे. ओके, ऑलराइट, लेट्स मूव फॉरवर्ड. So this is the second. तो हमने वैल्यू चेन डिस्कस करी. नाउ अभी हमने इस स्लाइड में देखा था कि द एंड प्रोडक्ट इज योर एमएस माइल्ड स्टील पाइप्स एंड ट्यूब्स. Another item, another product that we make in this industry, in this segment of steel pipes and tubes is galvanized pipe, galvanized coil, and cold rolled pipes. Okay, so these are some of the other things that we make. Galvanized pipes, they look something like this. Okay, and then you have galvanized coils as well. Okay, इनके ऑफ कोर्स एप्लीकेशंस थोड़े डिफरेंट हैं. Okay, जहां पे you require there is a high in places where there is a high probability that the pipes will get corroded. There you use galvanized pipes. Okay, कि corrosion से बच जाओगे because it's like shiny and it has a anti corrosion paint होता है which is zinc इसमें लगा होता है. Okay, so any which ways अगर आप इनका वैल्यू चेन देखो, so कंपनीज क्या करती हैं इसे बनाने के लिए, they procure these hot rolled coils directly from JSW and Tata Steel. Okay, तो टाटा स्टील और जेएसडब्ल्यू ये बना के देते हैं हॉट रोल्ड स्टील. उससे दैट इज पिकल्ड एंड ऑयल्ड. पिकल्ड मीनिंग उसमें आप एसिड डालते हो, एसिड से जितना रस्ट होता है वो निकल जाता है. यू ऑयल इट, एंड देन यू मेक कोल्ड रोल्ड कॉइल्स समथिंग लाइक दिस. ओके, वो जो कोल्ड रोल्ड कॉइल्स होते हैं, okay, उससे आप ये प्रोडक्ट्स बनाते हो. ओके, alright, so one thing I should also add is these galvanized coils and these cold rolled pipes, they also have applications in building electrical applications, okay, and automobiles. Okay? तो अगर आप कॉनकॉल देखो और हरिओम का, so they find applications in electrical applications and also in automobiles. तो automobiles को भी ये सब आप सप्लाई कर सकते हो these galvanized coils. Okay? तो end user industries काफी varied है. Okay? And also if I may add, okay? See in this industry, no, okay? जिस थिकनेस का आप बना रहे हो ये माइल्ड स्टील पाइप्स एंड ट्यूब्स, दैट आल्सो मैटर्स. सो अगर बहुत पतले बना रहे हो और उसका एक अलग एप्लीकेशन है. बहुत अगर इफ डायमीटर और इसका थिकनेस ज्यादा है तो उसका एप्लीकेशन हैवी स्ट्रक्चरल यूजेस है उनके. अपोलो सब कुछ करता है. सो आई जस्ट वांटेड टू काइंड ऑफ लीव विद दैट थॉट एज वेल कि इसमें भी within MS pipes and tubes also there could be different lot of varieties of products. Okay, सबका thickness और diameter अलग हो सकता है. Okay, और उनकी कुछ की प्राइसिंग भी अलग होती है. Okay, so that is something that will also have an implication, okay, when we come to discuss the moat section of this video. Okay, अभी हमने से value chain समझा है. The implication the value chains they have on these businesses, वो हमने we have not understood कि how different companies in this space they have gone about in creating their value chains. Oh, that would of course have an implication on their revenue and profitability. Okay, वो अभी हम समझेंगे. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, so यहाँ पे ये इंडस्ट्री अगेन हमने वैल्यू चेन अभी डिस्कस कर लिया. इंप्लीकेशन हम डिस्कस करेंगे बाद में, लेकिन पहले एक चीज समझ लो कि दिस इंडस्ट्री साइक्लिकल. अगर आप कुकिंग कोल का प्राइस देखो, कुकिंग कोल का प्राइस जो यूज होता है in the furnace, okay, see it has kind of all over. And then even if you look at the iron ore ka price, iron ore ke ye prices in the middle box, if you see that also kind of fluctuates. तो ये cyclical industry है क्योंकि raw material price अगर change होता है तो end product का price भी change होगा. Okay, right? So that's why this industry is cyclical in nature. Okay, because of raw material fluctuating prices. Let's move forward. तो यहाँ पे let's from this diagram or this slide, let's try to understand what kind of presence all these players in ERW have across the product segment. Okay, तो आप देखो Apollo, it's Hariom price, it's pipes, it seems it's kind of present everywhere. Okay, DRI meaning sponge iron, क्योंकि sponge iron वो खुद का बनाता है. Okay, ठीक है. अब APL खुद का नहीं बनाता है sponge iron, that we discussed. So Hariom is backward integrated. लेकिन let me tell you one thing, okay, which should be clear in a bit. They are only backward integrated in the manufacturing of mild steel tubes and pipes. Okay, Hariom is not backward integrated in the manufacturing of galvanized pipe and coils. Okay, sorry for that handwriting. Okay, so galvanized pipe oil बनाने के लिए raw material they procure from outside. Okay, लेकिन MS pipes, tubes and pipes के लिए they are fully backward integrated. Okay, so you see, okay, Sambhav, I don't think it has listed. It seems to be present across all. Okay, but all the other companies don't seem to be backward integrated as Hariom. Hariom is backward integrated here. Okay, so that's the sense that you get. ठीक है, all right. Now let's move forward. अब okay, हमने इंडस्ट्री देख ली. Okay, if I in fact take you, if I take you पहले upfront, हमने क्या देखा? हमने इंडस्ट्री एक बार देख ली पूरी. Okay, now we'll begin with the fundamental analysis portion. हम ये देखेंगे. Okay, right? And जो अभी तक हमने इंडस्ट्री में पढ़ा, that we'll try to leverage in the fundamental analysis. That's why analyzing the industry is paramount. Without that, you cannot do a good fundamental analysis. Now, hope you are finding my content valuable. If you are an investor interested in learning thorough fundamental analysis and valuation, or if you're an aspiring equity research analyst, okay, who is interested in learning these skills to get into such roles, then I have a program suited to your needs. Okay, so in my program, I cover quality and well-researched content. Okay? I cover diverse industries. Okay, and the topics that I teach in this program through live exercise and case studies are financial statements. I also teach you how to analyze and interpret financial and operating ratios. It's pretty extensive. Okay, and how to assess the forensics and how to analyze the quality of the management, how to read con calls and annual reports, okay? How to analyze an industry and how to size the market, okay? How to assess moats in a business, financial modeling, and valuation. And I also help you to form and articulate your investment thesis. So if you're someone who thinks who will be benefited by this program, then feel free to reach out to me at my email or reach out to me on LinkedIn. All right. Thank you. Now, let's start with fundamental analysis. Okay. All right. See, in one of his shareholder letters, in one of his shareholder letters, Warren Buffett has said, no formula in finance tells you that moat is 28 feet wide and 16 feet deep. That's what drives the academics crazy. They can compute standard deviations and betas, but they can't understand moats. मतलब मोट का कोई मोट मतलब कॉम्पिटिटिव एडवांटेज, उसका कोई फॉर्मूला नहीं है सच. आपको कुछ सोर्सेस कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स होते हैं बिजनेस के. There are certain business characteristics that you need to gauge and compare those characteristics with other characteristics of in other businesses and see कि क्या मोट है क्या. वो हम डिस्कस करेंगे अभी. लेकिन मोट का सच कोई स्टैंडर्ड फॉर्मूला नहीं है. Okay, that's what Mr. Buffett tells us. Okay, see, and then in his shareholder letters, he also gives us what are or typically the sources of competitive advantages or moat in a business. Okay, so if you look at so there are like 7 that I've listed here. It's not an exhaustive list. Okay, but I have some of the key ones. The first one is cost advantage. Okay, if you are the lowest cost player in the industry, okay, you may have moat. You may have moat. You may have a competitive advantage vis-a-vis other players in the industry. और ये कॉस्ट एडवांटेज आपको कैसे आएगा? कैसे आएगा कॉस्ट एडवांटेज? अगर हम स्टील इस इंडस्ट्री की बात करें जो डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, okay, the source could be either the source is backward integration like Hariom. Okay, I know they're not backward integrated for all the products, but they are for a set of products. Okay, the other source could be you have some manufacturing efficiencies. You are trying to do something to save on your power and fuel cost. Okay, which is something that Hariom is doing as well, which we'll see in the subsequent slide. Key if you have some manufacturing efficiencies, okay, or you are using a new technology to build your end products. Okay, ये जो है new manufacturing tech, okay, अगर आप यूज कर रहे हो तो भी शायद you are able to make your products for cheaper because you are using a new technology. वो भी हम देखेंगे. ठीक है, तो ये चीजें आपको देखनी है कि क्या ऐसा कुछ हो रहा है कि ये कंपनीज ऐसा कुछ कर रही हैं जिससे इनको कॉस्ट एडवांटेज मिल रहा है. ठीक है, और कॉस्ट एडवांटेज का रियल मेजर क्या है? एबिटा पर टन. वो हम देखेंगे कितना ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट कमा रहे हो. कि अगर किसी का मान लो ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट ज्यादा है, ओके, वो सब हम देखेंगे अभी. तो आपको देखना पड़ेगा, ढूंढना पड़ेगा कॉन कॉल्स पढ़ के कि किस वजह से इनका हायर एबिटा टन है, हायर एबिटा पर टन है, या किस वजह से इनका लोअर एबिटा पर टन है. दैट विल हैव टू एनालाइज. So this is kind of use this as a framework. You take a snapshot if you want of this. Pause the video and take a snapshot if you want of this slide. Okay. So the cost advantage is the driver of moat. The second is capital allocation. How good of a capital allocator you are, what kind of capital decisions you have taken. Okay. That we'll also see. हम ये detail में भी समझेंगे. Okay. इसका measure क्या है? You look at the capital efficiency. और अगर आप बहुत low working capital player हो, then also it drives moat. ये हम देखेंगे अभी. I'm just leaving this thought with you. ये हम we'll double click into all of this. ब्रांड पावर. अगर आपकी ब्रांड पावर है, B2B बिजनेस में टिपिकली ब्रांड बनाना डिफिकल्ट होता है. ऑल दीज आर B2B businesses. Okay, so but if you have been able to build a brand like APL Apollo has been able to build a brand, okay, then you can command a premium realization, premium pricing. Okay, so that is visible in the realization per ton. जितना प्रोडक्ट बेच रहे हैं, एक टन में 1000 किलो होते हैं, तो आप देख लो कि पर केजी या पर 1000 किलोज रियलाइजेशन अगर ज्यादा मिल रहा है ओवरऑल बेसिस में, तो दैट मीन्स कि थोड़ा आपका एज है मार्केट में. या तो ब्रांड है आपका, या तो यू आर सेलिंग अ डिफरेंट प्रोडक्ट, जिस वजह से यू आर एबल टू चार्ज अ प्रीमियम. तो अगेन, just these are important things that you need to know to analyze moat in a business. Fourth is distribution. If you have a pan India presence, okay, and if you are dealing with a lot of distributors or dealers, you have exclusivity with your distributors, they are selling only your product, tab also this may be a source of moat. Okay, product differentiation. Okay, क्या है कि अगर आप विद इन MS माइल्ड स्टील ट्यूब्स एंड पाइप्स और गैल्वनाइज्ड पाइप्स, अगर आप कोई ऐसा प्रोडक्ट बना रहे हो जो अभी कोई और नहीं बना रहा, तब अगेन वो डिफरेंशिएशन हो जाता है. तो थिकनेस अगर आप एक कोई टाइप की बना रहे हो, या फिर डायमीटर कुछ टाइप का ऐसा बना रहे हो, तो उससे भी डिफरेंशिएशन आ सकता है. वो कैसे देखोगे? अगर बहुत कंपनी R&D में स्पेंड कर रही है, नए प्रोडक्ट ला रही है, जैसे ये लोग सोलर स्ट्रक्चर्स में घुस रहे हैं, सोलर स्ट्रक्चर्स में जो पाइप्स लगेंगे, दे ट्राइंग टू मेक दैट. So again, that could be an example of product differentiation. Both APL Apollo and Hariom, they are trying to make products for solar structures as well. Okay. And then I have two others, switching costs and networking effects, which may not be very relevant for what we are doing, may be relevant for other industries. Okay. Right. So, but this framework would help you in your fundamental analysis. Okay. अभी हम सबको जोड़ेंगे साथ में. Okay. Let's move on. All right. So this slide I've pulled from Hariom Pipe ka investor presentation. So it says the same thing that we've already talked about, that a part of their operations are backward integrated. Okay, the operations from which they make MS steel tubes and pipes, that manufacturing process is backward integrated. That's what they're saying. Okay, or galvanized pipes and coils. Okay, that is not backward integrated. Okay, so you can pause and just see ki aur kya bol rahe hain slide mein, but that is essentially the message I wanted to drive home. Ki is the backward integration leading to cost advantage? Is it leading to moat? Okay, cost advantage, yes, it does lead to cost advantage, but is that cost advantage leading to a moat? That is something we have not answered yet. That is something we'll answer in a bit. Okay, केवल एक चीज होने की वजह से मोट नहीं आ जाता. Okay, वो हम देखेंगे. Okay, so again, one quote from Warren Buffett. It says that a truly great business must have an excellent return, must have an enduring moat that protects excellent returns on invested capital. The dynamics of capitalism guarantee that competitors will repeatedly assault any business castle that is earning high returns. So basically क्या कह रहा है कि although there is no one formula to measure business moats, but the all-encompassing metric that comes closest, okay, is ROIC. Okay? So agar a business is able to demonstrate high ROIC over a prolonged period of time, okay, that means it's able to do so because it has moat. It's able to ward off competition, okay, from mimicking its operations. ठीक है, तो ROIC अगर किसी बिजनेस का अच्छा है काफी देर तक, तो इसका मतलब वो बिजनेस मोट दिखा रहा है. ओके, ये कह रहे हैं इसलिए यहाँ पे. ऑलराइट, लेट्स मूव फॉरवर्ड. तो we established that ROIC is an important metric. Okay, so let's understand कि ROIC हो तो what is ROIC and what is made up of ROIC? What drives ROIC? Let's try to understand that. ROIC क्या है? Return on invested capital. Okay, so basically for every rupee of invested capital, how much profit do you make? That is ROIC. Denominator में you have invested capital, numerator में you have profit. So that is return, that is profit on invested capital. Okay, so again इसको थोड़ा डबल क्लिक करते हैं इसमें. तो ROIC क्या है? जिस तरीके से हम मेजर करते हैं फाइनेंस में, यू हैव इन्वेस्टेड कैपिटल एंड इन द न्यूमरेटर यू हैव ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट. तो एबिटा नहीं है, ये एबिट है. लेट्स नॉट गेट इनटू एबिटा एंड एबिट वाला डिस्कशन अभी, बट यू हैव एबिट इन द न्यूमरेटर. ओके, सो ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट बेसिकली, तो रिटर्न इन्वेस्टेड कैपिटल इज कि रिटर्न ऑफ कितना ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट कमा रहे हो पर रुपी ऑफ इन्वेस्टेड कैपिटल. अब डबल क्लिक करते हैं इसमें फर्दर. सो ROIC इन टर्न इज मेड अप ऑफ टू थिंग्स. वन इज योर ऑपरेटिंग मार्जिन and the other is capital efficiency. If you do this cross multiplication, you land up with this. Okay, so this is operating margin. Okay, this is capital efficiency, this parameter. What is capital efficiency? It's revenue by invested capital. Matlab, for every rupee of capital that you put in your business, for every rupee of investment in the form of next fixed assets and working capital that you put in your business, okay, what is the revenue that you are able to generate? That is invested capital. Let's say if your capital efficiency is 3, that means for every rupee of invested capital you are making 3 rupees as revenue. Okay, तो ये एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट मेट्रिक हो जाता है. कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ कैपिटल एफिशिएंसी, कितना आप कैपिटल घुमा के रेवेन्यू जनरेट कर रहे हो, एंड कंबाइनिंग इट विद कितनी प्रॉफिट पे आप वो रेवेन्यू कमा रहे हो, दैट गिव्स यू ROIC. ओके, सो दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. एंड अभी जो मोट की बात कर रहे थे कि वेदर दिस बिजनेस हरिओम has moat because of backward integration or it does not, वो हम assessment की बात कर रहे थे. That will be clear if we have this, if we understand this. तो अभी वो clear हो जाएगा with this understanding of कि how ROIC is driven by margin and efficiency. Okay, all right, now with that ROIC understanding, let's look at the financial and operating metrics for the 4 key businesses in this industry. Okay, APL Apollo, Hariom, JTL, and hi-tech. Okay, so one of the very important things that you should do in any commodity, when you analyze the fundamentals of any commodity-based businesses, you look at per ton analysis. Per ton analysis. Per ton analysis क्या हो गया? Okay? If you look at all these metrics here, okay, यहाँ पे they are your per ton की. तो for example, realization कितना है आपका per ton? Okay, मतलब कितना revenue you are making per ton, because ये commodity companies है ना. Okay, तो we see Apollo is making around 69-65,000 rupees per ton. मतलब 69-65 rupees per kg. पर किलो ले लो या per ton ले लो, एक ही बात है. Okay, so you just need to follow the same standard. So Apollo is making 69-65,000 rupees per ton. Hariom is making 55-57,000. JTL around very similar range that of Hariom, and hi-tech is on par with Apollo. Okay, so इससे क्या पता लगता है आपको? So one of the things that stands out here is कि Apollo is able to make a premium, okay, on realization, because of 2 reasons. Because they have developed a brand name over time, so premium pricing, plus they may have differentiated products as well. Okay, so they have differentiated products. They have been in the business since a long period of time. They have done pretty well for themselves, which is reflected in the high realization. Okay, now next thing is, if you look at the spread, ये जो spread है यहाँ पे, स्प्रेड देखो आप. ओके, तो यू सी हरिओम का हाईएस्ट स्प्रेड है. स्प्रेड का मतलब क्या हुआ? स्प्रेड का मतलब ये हुआ कि रियलाइजेशन जितना है पर केजी या पर टन माइनस आपका कॉस्ट ऑफ गुड्स सोल्ड, मतलब कितना पैसा लग रहा है रॉ मटेरियल में उसे बनाने में, है, उसका डिफरेंशियल इज योर स्प्रेड. है, तो स्प्रेड देखो हरिओम का हाईएस्ट है. ओके, एंड हरिओम का एबिटा भी हाईएस्ट है, 7,000 rupees per ton. Okay, and hi-tech का, that's why I've written red, hi-tech का lowest है. Okay, see, तो इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? Hariom has done a great job, right, in margin. So we saw that it is backward integrated. So at least for a portion of their business, so which is showing in its margin as well. Okay, इनफैक्ट मेरे पास और भी पर टन मेट्रिक्स हैं। एम्प्लॉय कॉस्ट देखो, अभी अपोलो का काफी कम है, जेटीएल का तो बहुत कम है, हरिओम का थोड़ा हाई लग रहा है ये। सो ऐसे जैसे जैसे बिजनेस स्केल करेगा, अंडरस्टैंडिंग है कि दे शुड बी एबल टू रिड्यूस देयर एम्प्लॉय कॉस्ट एज वेल। मे नॉट बी एबल टू रिड्यूस इट अ लॉट, बिकॉज बैकवर्ड इंटीग्रेशन में क्या होता है कि आपको हर पार्ट ऑफ द मैन्युफैक्चरिंग और प्रोक्योरमेंट वैल्यू चेन में आपको बंदे चाहिए। तो एम्प्लॉय कॉस्ट बहुत कम नहीं कर पाओगे, लेकिन थोड़ा कम कर सकते हो विद ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज। ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज क्या हुआ? ओके, सो व्हाट इज ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज? सो जैसे जैसे अगर आपके कुछ फिक्स कॉस्ट हैं, तो जैसे जैसे आप स्केल करते हो, फिक्स कॉस्ट मोर और लेस सेम रहते हैं, लेकिन जैसे जैसे आप स्केल कर रहे हो, रेवेन्यू बढ़ रहा है, तो इंक्रीमेंटल रेवेन्यू डायरेक्टली बॉटम लाइन में फ्लो करता है। सो दैट इज, बहुत जल्दी बता रहा हूँ, ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज। मेड अ डिटेल वीडियो ऑन व्हाट ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज इज। तो थोड़ा ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज प्ले आउट करेगा, क्योंकि एज दे स्केल देयर कॉस्ट मे नॉट इंक्रीज इन प्रोपोर्शन टू देयर रेवेन्यू, तो थोड़ा उसमें बेनिफिट मिल सकता है। पावर एंड फ्यूल की बात करें तो इनके पावर एंड फ्यूल ऑप्टिकली बहुत हाई दिख रहे हैं। अगेन, पैटर्न एनालिसिस बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कमोडिटी कंपनीज लाइक दिस, नॉट ओनली स्टील एंड पाइप, एनी कमोडिटी कंपनी यू पिक, आपको पैटर्न एनालिसिस करना चाहिए। इनका पावर एंड फ्यूल कॉस्ट क्यों हाई लग रहा है हरिओम का? सी अगेन, अगर इफ यू आर लेट्स से मेकिंग स्पॉन्ज आयरन, यू आर मेकिंग योर रॉ मटेरियल, तो उसमें पावर एंड फ्यूल लगेगा, राइट? बट द गुड थिंग इज द पावर एंड फ्यूल हैज कम डाउन over time, and we look in the con call as to why it is coming down. In fact, one of the things I like about Hariom is a laser focus, or if I can use that word, on costs. Cost में बहुत focus है। तो any which ways इनका total EBITDA काफी highest है in the industry, हरिओम पाइप्स का। now but तो क्या मतलब backward integrated है तो highest margin है तो क्या मतलब मोट हो गया? No, again we are not saying that. अभी हमने we just understood what ROIC is. ROIC is a combination of your margin and your capital efficiency। कि कितना कैपिटल आप टर्न कर पा रहे हो, कितनी एफिशिएंटली। तो कैपिटल एफिशिएंसी, इफ यू लुक एट कैपिटल एफिशिएंसी, APL Apollo and in fact all the other players as well, they have a very high capital efficiency. APL Apollo in fact has the highest capital efficiency of almost 5 rupees। तो इसका मतलब for every rupee that APL Apollo invests in themselves, they make 5 rupees as revenue। Hariom on the other hand, they are making only 1.5 rupees for every rupee invested। JTL is 3 and hi-tech is also 3। तो अगर आप, ऑल्दो अपोलो का मार्जिन कम है रिलेटिवली, लेकिन इतनी जल्दी आप टर्न कर पा रहे हो, कैपिटल एफिशिएंसी सो हाई, तो आपका आरओआईसी इज वेरी हाई। हरिओम का लुक एट द आरओआईसी, इट्स 11-14%, वेरी क्लोज विद दैट ऑफ हाईटेक। जेटीएल का इट्स गुड। द रीजन व्हाई जेटीएल का अच्छा है, बिकॉज दे हैव अ डिसेंट कैपिटल एफिशिएंसी, एंड दे हैव डिसेंट मार्जिन्स। राइट? जेटीएल के साथ on paper it seems a good company, probably it is, लेकिन they had some corporate governance issues recently. That's why I'm not focusing a whole lot on JTL, because they had some corporate governance issues। So that we'll discuss when we come to the management quality assessment in this video। ठीक है? तो any which ways, लेकिन हाईटेक के साथ क्या है? हाईटेक के मार्जिन भी बहुत कम है, और ऑल द कैपिटल एफिशिएंसी ठीक ठाक है, लेकिन मार्जिन बहुत कम है, उसकी वजह से इनका आरओआईसी बहुत कम है। एंड द रीजन व्हाई हाईटेक के मार्जिन्स बिल्कुल एबिस्मल टाइप के हैं, बेटा पठान, बिकॉज दे सी, एक तो बैकवर्ड इंटीग्रेटेड नहीं है। दूसरा दूसरा क्या है कि दे बाय I'm not I don't think they have the kind of manufacturing efficiencies which APL and Hariom have। And also they do not use patra steel at all। they use patra steel as raw material। तो क्या है, पतरा स्टील चीप पड़ता है अगर आप उसके कॉइल्स यूज कर रहे हो, तो दे जस्ट आर इनटू प्रीमियम। तो ऑल द रियलाइजेशन प्रीमियम है, लेकिन मार्जिन इनका कम है। सो एनी which ways, larger point is if you look at the ROIC, now I think you have a fair understanding as to why APL Apollo का ROIC is too high, Hariom का it's not that great, because despite it having a very good margin। तो और अगर आप वर्किंग कैपिटल डेज देखो, वर्किंग कैपिटल डेज, लुक एट दिस, 0। APL Apollo has 0 working capital days। Hariom Pipe, has their working capital days are very high, and the reason is why their working capital days are very high। इनके working capital days क्यों high हैं? Very high because of high inventory। क्या है कि जब आप बहुत ज्यादा बैकवर्ड इंटीग्रेटेड होते हो, you have to ensure that you have raw material availability for every part of your value chain that gets added in your inventory। So that's why because you have to have that inventory across of raw material for all the processes in the value chain, so you That's why so your blocking capital, the inventory uh, is blocking your is blocking your working capital. तो आप इनका working capital days बहुत high है. Okay, all right. तो JTL का and hi-tech का it's around. In fact, if you go back 10 years in time, APL Apollo का working capital days was very similar to where JTL and hi-tech are at today. Okay, so लेकिन हरिओम पाइप का कैश कन्वर्जन साइकिल इज वेरी is very suboptimal. Okay, so that is leading is reflected in its low ROIC. Okay, so hopefully now you're kind of getting a sense कि how do you evaluate moat, कि although backward integration सब कुछ है, लेकिन that needs to reflect in the working capital days as well. Okay, थोड़ा at least manage कर पाए तो their ROIC will increase and it would reflect in their market cap, in their shareholder value, in their enterprise value as well. Okay, so अभी हम वैल्यूएशन अभी हम डिस्कस करेंगे थोड़ी देर में. Okay, you will understand कि why Hariom Pipe is getting a very low multiple right now. Okay, but hope this was clear. Okay, अच्छा, एक चीज which I think I should discuss is the value added products. Okay, अगर आप percentage of value added products देखो, Hariom is looks so good, right, vis-a-vis others. Okay, लेकिन let me tell you, Hariom MS mild steel tubes and pipes को value added बोलता है. Same product is not a value added product for APL Apollo. Okay, please understand that. Okay, Hariom उनको value added display बोलता है क्योंकि because they make high margins from it. Okay, but we are talking about different. तो value तो although on paper it seems कि Hariom is का value added इतना ज्यादा है तो they are driving a premium pricing, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है, वो मार्जिन में रिफ्लेक्ट हो रहा है. Okay, और APL Apollo is trying to increase the value added products ताकि इनका मार्जिन बढ़ जाए. अगर इनका मार्जिन और बढ़ जाता है, okay, and their capital efficiency itself is high, so the ROIC also will again increase in the future, will increase even more. Okay, all right, now let's move forward. Okay, अब हम समझते हैं कि how to read con calls. Okay, मैं थोड़े examples दूंगा, लेकिन I've made a detailed video, okay, on how to read con calls. I'll probably put the link in the description section, okay, of this video. वहां पे मैंने समझाया कि क्या देखना चाहिए आपको con calls में, ये सब चीजें देखनी चाहिए, प्लस मैनेजमेंट के बारे में you get a sense कि मैनेजमेंट कैसा है. ओके, आई डोंट हैव द मैनेजमेंट बॉक्स, लेकिन यहाँ पे मेरा मैनेजमेंट का लाइन मैंने यहाँ पे डाला है कि यू ऑल्सो बिसाइड्स ऑल दैट यू सी, यू ऑल्सो नीड टू असेस द मैनेजमेंट. मैं ऑफ कोर्स इन दिस वीडियो में मैं सब चीजों में नहीं घुसूंगा अभी. आप वीडियो ये देख लो प्लीज, आपको बहुत अच्छे समझ में आ जाएगा कि कौन कॉल से आपको कैसे पढ़ना चाहिए और कैसे यूज करना चाहिए अपने फंडामेंटल एनालिसिस के लिए. ऑलराइट, लेट्स मूव फॉरवर्ड. ओके, ऑलराइट, सी जब हम वैल्यू चेन, व्हेन यू आर डिस्कसिंग वैल्यू चेन, ओके, अभी तक यू वुड हैव रियलाइज्ड कि बैकवर्ड इंटीग्रेशन से क्या फर्क पड़ता है, एंड ओनली बैकवर्ड इंटीग्रेशन इज नॉट a guarantor of moat in a business. That much you would have realized, because backward integration अगर आप कर रहे हो तो it's good, but it may spoil some of the other things as well in terms of working capital. तो working capital में go for a toss, तो आपको working capital भी मैनेज करना है. Okay, तो मार्जिन का फायदा मिल गया आपको बैकवर्ड इंटीग्रेशन से. Okay, लेकिन इफ यू रिकॉल, हमने जब मोट की स्लाइड थी, when we were talking about moat, तो हमने ये डिस्कस किया था, there are lot of other things that a company, a manufacturer can do to basically drive a higher margin, to drive cost advantage. Okay, तो हमने अभी मोट की स्लाइड में, प्लस इन द व्हेन वी आर डिस्कसिंग द फाइनेंशियल ऑपरेटिंग रेशियोज, व्हाट वी सॉ इज कि हरिओम हैज डन अ ग्रेट जॉब एट रिड्यूसिंग इट्स पावर कॉस्ट. तो यहाँ पे द रीजन दैट दे आर गिवन इज, और यहाँ पे भी कॉस्ट के बारे में मैंने नोट किया है, द रीजन दैट दे आर गिविंग इज कि जो एमएस बिलेट्स दे आर सेंट फ्रॉम फर्नेस, जहां फर्नेस में बिलेट्स बनते हैं, दे आर सेंट डायरेक्टली टू द रोलिंग मिल for making coils. Okay, so reheating is not required. So what used to happen earlier is, again, that's why understanding the value chain is important, manufacturing value chain and entire value chain, कि billets जो बन रहे हैं फर्नेस में, okay, वो थोड़ी देर एक जगह रख दिए जाएंगे और उनको वापस रोलिंग मिल में डालेंगे कॉइल बनाने के लिए. Okay, तो ठंडे हो जाते हैं, तो वापस हीट करने की जरूरत पड़ती थी. बट व्हाट दे आर सेइंग इज, नाउ billets are sent directly from furnace to the rolling mill, so reheating is not required, and that's why they end up saving on power cost. Okay, so again, risk of repetition, that's what I like about Hariom. Okay, they have a great focus on cost control. Okay, acha, yeah, again, all right, let's just discuss one thing more, okay, is the use of new manufacturing technology in these businesses. Okay, so if you recall the slide that we had on moat, okay, so wahan pe we saw that there is backward integration is a driver of cost advantage. Manufacturing efficiencies is also a driver of cost advantage. And then if you are using any new manufacturing technique or a modern technique to make your product, then also it may drive cost advantage. Okay, so let's discuss new manufacturing technique. Okay, तो यहाँ पे there is something called tandem mill, okay, which Hariom uses, and in fact APL Apollo भी ऐसा कुछ use करता है. They just don't call it tandem mill. Okay, so tandem mill क्या होता है कि it takes, let's say you have to make a coil. Okay, so when you pass the strip of metal, okay, क्या है कि if you do not use a tandem mill, okay, if you pass it through your mill, that strip, okay, तो वो एक एंगल पे बेंड करेगा, then again you'll have to take it out and put it back in, then वो दूसरे एंगल पे स्ट्रिप को बेंड करेगा. Okay, so it requires multiple passes, okay, to make the desired product. So उससे टाइम एंड एनर्जी एंड पावर सब कुछ बहुत लगता है. But now if you use a tandem mill, okay, then you can pretty much do everything in one go, in one pass itself. Okay, so there is a lot of efficiency, both in terms of reduced power costs and manpower that you save. Okay, and that is, this tandem mill is of course used to make one of their products, not all of it, but one of their products. Okay, so यहाँ पे if I take you to the annual report, okay, and just try to understand a little more, this is important. This is the annual report of Hariom. Okay, so what they're saying is they've commissioned this tandem mill. Okay, और यहाँ पे the benefit is it's the same thing that we spoke about, ability to perform multiple rolling operations in a single pass. Okay, तो उससे benefit और क्या होता है? If I go नीचे थोड़ा, why it doesn't go नीचे? Okay, this is what how a tandem this mill looks like. Okay, तो अगर हम नीचे जाएं, there is something which I had marked, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not marked here. Okay, तो यहाँ पे क्या है कि if you look at this, if you just read through this, okay, it says we commissioned a state-of-the-art tandem mill. This has enabled the production of pipes which have thickness as low as 0.4 millimeter, which are in high demand and command premium pricing. So they are saying is कि इस मिल की वजह से हम बहुत पतली सी thickness का we can make pipes which are of demand in the market. That's what they say. Okay, so that's another benefit of कि इनको एक portfolio of the product में इनको they get premium pricing because of this new manufacturing technology. Okay, and plus they save they bring manufacturing efficiencies as well because of this new technology. Okay, तो इससे भी आप, तो बेसिकली मेरा रीजन क्या है ये सब करने का, ये सब दिखाने का, कि जब आप when you're reading through these con calls and of any document of a company, please, because you now understand the value chain, okay, जो डायग्राम था वैल्यू चेन का, you try to see कि are they using any different process in manufacturing, okay, are they backward integrated, what other manufacturing efficiencies do they have, okay, उससे differentiation आएगा. लेकिन अगेन दैट डिफरेंशिएशन मे नॉट बी द गारंटर ऑफ मे नॉट गारंटी कि मोट होगा कि बिजनेस में नहीं, क्योंकि एक कुछ पीस ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन सिर्फ कॉस्ट एडवांटेज से मोट नहीं आता, बिकॉज यू हैव टू सी कि कॉस्ट एडवांटेज के साथ कुछ और चीज खराब तो नहीं हो रही है. ओके, तो एनी विच वेज इस तरीके से आपको सोचना है, वैल्यू चेन समझ के आपको ये सब ढूंढना है. ओके, इसलिए मैं बता रहा हूं. ओके, और ये जो ये दिस 0.4 मिलीमीटर की बात कर रहे हैं ना, दिस इज आई चेक, दिस इज अ स्मॉल पोर्शन ऑफ द पोर्टफोलियो राइट नाउ. ओके, इफ दिस इवॉल्व्स, इट बिकम्स बिगर, then of course they it would be good for the business. Okay, let's move back to the deck. The under new manufacturing technology that they that is spoken about is DFT, called direct forming technology. Now APL Apollo, if you go through their con call or annual report, 30% of their capacity, manufacturing capacity is now built, products is built through DFT, if I'm not mistaken. DFT क्या होता है DFT? So you make these, you make those pipes, right? If I go back to the, just 1 second, let me go back. Typically क्या होता है? You make pipes which are circular, okay? But let's say if you want to make rectangular or square वाले pipes, तो क्या होता था पुरानी टेक्नोलॉजी में? ये पाइप को ना, आप ये गोल पाइप बनाने के बाद, you kind of put them again back in the machine or what have you, to mold them to take the shape of a square. Okay? लेकिन अब क्या है, with this DFT technology, direct forming technology, वो form कर देता है, you don't have to do that. Okay? So when you have this hot roll strip, okay, you can use that to directly make an MS pipe or tube in a square or a rectangular shape. Okay? You don't have to first make this to make this. Okay? You can directly, using DFT, direct forming technology, you can use the hot rolled strips to directly make these square or rectangular pipes. So ये advantage है DFT का. So again, there are cost savings in manufacturing. Okay? So again, one of the ways companies are trying to differentiate themselves is using DFT. और अभी Apollo of course is already using it. Hariom, okay, has acquired a small company, okay, which has DFT. Okay, Okay, तो next year, this financial year में they may have some DFT, not for all their operations, but for a portion of their operations. Okay, right? दूसरी JTL भी यूज करने वाली है, but I don't think high-tech ने अभी there is no such communication that has happened from them. So any which ways, this is a new manufacturing technology which would if they use it, and this is an expensive technology. That's why so it would be margin accretive in the long term. Okay, so let's just move back. तो यहाँ पे वो यही बता रहे हैं. Okay, सो कॉस्ट एडवांटेज पे तो हमने बहुत देख लिया, क्या चीजें वैल्यू चेन में आप करोगे, क्या चीजें वैल्यू चेन में करोगे जिससे आपका कॉस्ट एडवांटेज मिलेगा. ओके, नाउ हरिओम के लिए हमने देख लिया, अपोलो के लिए भी हमने देख लिया. अब वर्किंग कैपिटल की बात करते हैं, क्योंकि हमने देखा कि अगेन कॉस्ट एडवांटेज इफ यू आर ट्राइंग टू ड्राइव इट मे स्पॉइल योर वर्किंग कैपिटल ऑफ यू अदर थिंग्स इन द बिजनेस. ओके, इट्स नॉट द कॉस्ट एडवांटेज मे नॉट बी द गारंटर इफ इट ऑफ मोट इफ इट्स स्पॉइलिंग अदर थिंग्स. ओके, तो क्या तो वर्किंग कैपिटल का हम डिस्कस कर लेते हैं. Okay? तो यहाँ पे क्या बोल रहे हैं कि अपोलो में वर्किंग कैपिटल डेज इज 0. Okay? इनके 0 डेज है, रिसीवेबल्स इज 0. व्हाई दैट इज? बिकॉज दे हैव मूव्ड टू कैश एंड कैरी मॉडल. ओके, दे हैव मूव्ड टू कैश एंड कैरी मॉडल, मतलब कि कस्टमर से बोलते हैं कि आप पैसा दो और सामान लो उसी समय. विच इज द कैश एंड कैरी मॉडल. ओके, और नो अदर कंपनी हैज बीन एबल टू डू दैट, एंड द रीजन व्हाई अपोलो हैज बीन एबल टू डू दैट कि what they do is they give cash discounts. If you look at, I took this snippet from the con call of APL Apollo. ये काफी पुरानी con call है. So what they are saying is कि they give cash discounts, so they are compensating them against the, and बोलते हैं कि भाई अपने end customer से बोलते हैं you keep your low inventory, you take cash discounts from us, okay, and आप hoard मत करो, you don't hoard stuff. आप कम कम सामान लोगे तो तुरंत तुरंत पैसा दे पाओगे. एंड कस्टमर से बोलते हैं कि आप कम सामान लो लेकिन तुरंत पैसा दो, हम कैश डिस्काउंट भी दे देंगे. होर्ड मत करो. इफ यू होर्ड देन ऑफ कोर्स दे वुड नॉट, द एंड कस्टमर विल नॉट पे द एंटायर अमाउंट अप फ्रंट. तो कहते हैं कि कम कम जितना जरूरत है उतना ही लो. व्हेनेवर यू नीड मोर स्टफ वी विल गिव यू. ऐसा एपीएल अपोलो, व्हाई इट हैज बीन एबल टू डू दैट? बिकॉज ऑफ इट्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, इफ इट्स प्रेजेंस इन द इट्स वाइड प्रेजेंस इन द कंट्री. ओके, सो तो इसलिए अपोलो ये कर पाया है. ओके, तो एंड नो अदर कंपनी हैज बीन एबल टू डू दैट. सो डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन से बहुत अच्छा मोट आता है. बिकॉज इफ यू सी, सो अगर आपका प्रेजेंस बहुत अच्छा है, ब्रांड प्रेजेंस है, आपका डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन बहुत अच्छा है, विच फॉर द टू आइटम्स इन आवर मोड फ्रेमवर्क, दे ऑल्सो bring about working capital efficiencies. So good capital allocation indirectly. Okay, all right, so now we are in the last section of the fundamental analysis portion. Okay, so see, there are two the topic we're going to discuss is management quality. How do you assess management quality? See, there are two key sources. One is, of course, go through con calls, which we look. The other is annual report. So I have made detailed videos on where to look and what to look in an annual report to gauge the quality of the management. I use a checklist, okay, and I've made multiple videos. Okay, when I analyze, I've made multiple videos on this topic. Okay, so I'll put the link to those videos. Okay, so I'm not going to do in the interest of time. तो मैं एनुअल रिपोर्ट वाला स्किप करूंगा. आई जस्ट फोकस ऑन द कॉन कॉल की हाउ कैन यू व्हाट टू लुक फॉर इन कॉन कॉल्स टू गेज the quality of the management. And yeah, see, it's very subjective, okay, to each their own, but I'm just going to give my opinion. Okay, see, what I look for typically is the management walking the talk? If they are giving any guidance, are they able to achieve it? Okay, so that is of course very important. And also, okay, what kind are they giving very aggressive guidance? So if they are giving very aggressive guidance, and then they are not able to meet it, then that's doesn't reflect well on the management. Okay. The other is what kind of capital decisions or business decisions they take. Okay. Are they, let's say, diversifying into a totally unrelated area, okay, which will only, let's say, destroy capital. Okay. So then it may not again reflect very good on the management. Okay. So, and what kind of दूसरी चीज ये हो गई. तीसरी चीज क्या हो गई? What kind of responses they give to the analysts on the investing community. When the investing community, they ask them questions, तो उनके responses किस तरीके के हैं. Okay, तो kind of tone of the responses, okay, से आपको थोड़ा एक qualitative assessment पता लग जाता है. तो let's look at some examples. Okay, so the first example that I have here is my notes tell me that I need to go to the Q3 का con call, okay, where they give some aggressive guidance. Okay, so let me go to that con call. Okay. All right, so I've flipped over to that con call. Okay. So यहाँ पे if you read through, okay, you pause this video and read through what they're saying. So Amitabh Bhattacharya is the CFO, okay, of this company. He's not the promoter, he's the CFO. Okay. So what he's saying is what the guidance that this management had given earlier was of 2,500 rupees of revenue, okay, 2,500 CR of revenue by FY26. Now they are saying that they can't achieve it, okay, by FY26. There'll be a lag of 3-4 months. ठीक है, चलता है उतना. प्रॉब्लम बताएं यहाँ पे क्या हो गई. प्रॉब्लम इज in a commodity company, okay, you should not be giving guidances on revenue. You should be giving guidances on volume. कितना माल बेचोगे, not कि कितने में बेचोगे, कितना revenue कर लोगे. Okay, because see, the prices that you may sell your products for, they may not be in your control because it's a commodity at the end of the day. Okay, स्पेशलाइज जितना बोलना है बोल लो, बट इट्स अ मोर और लेस इट्स अ कमोडिटी. कि तो आपकी प्राइसेस कंट्रोल में नहीं है, तो उन्होंने गाइडेंस दे दिया प्राइस पे, वो अब मीट नहीं कर पाएंगे, तो अगेन दे आर बैक ट्रैकिंग. Okay, so that's why I'm note here in a commodity industry, management should not guide for volume growth, volume growth, and not revenue growth. Sorry, in a commodity industry, management should only guide for volume growth and not revenue growth, since revenue is contingent upon commodity prices. So that's the note that I have written. Okay, so again, so this kind of gives you some idea about what they've done. Again, अगर एक आध बार हो रहा है, बार बार नहीं हो रहा है, which is fine. So you have to continuously keep a tab on the con calls कि ऐसा हमेशा तो नहीं हो रहा है, hoping that they've learned the lesson. Okay, but let's hope कि assume कि it's an isolated incident. Let's look at some of the other things, okay, which will help us form an opinion on the management. Okay, all right. So if I move down, my notes tell me कि I need to go to the latest con call जो अभी हुई है very recently. Okay, and there I need to check 3 things. One is, my notes tell me that the promoter seemed less plugged in. We'll see as to what I mean by that. CFO revised their guidance, and then it's an interesting capital allocation decision of diversification that they took. Okay, so let's see all these 3 things in this con call. Okay, so let's flip over to the con call. All right. So I flipped over to the latest con call. See again, यहाँ पे मैंने notes बनाए अपने. Management have note की. This is would help me kind of form a view on the management. So the analyst ने question किया कि see, your value added products have increased handsomely. Okay? Your EBITDA per ton, but your EBITDA per ton has declined. Okay? तो उसने पूछा कि भाई जब आपके वैल्यू एडेड प्रोडक्ट ज्यादा आप बेच रहे हो, तो आपका मार्जिन पर प्रोडक्ट क्यों कम हो गया है. दैट्स द क्वेश्चन. तो मैनेजमेंट ने इन माय व्यू आंसर नहीं किया, क्वेश्चन घुमा दिया. ओके, ऑल्दो इसका आंसर pretty स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड है, जो लास्ट कॉन कॉल में ही मिल गया था. ओके, विच इज कि भाई क्या हो रहा है अभी कि पहले वो केवल एमएस ट्यूब्स एंड पाइप्स बेचते थे, विच ऑफ कोर्स विच वो पूरा बैकवर्ड इंटीग्रेटेड था, तो मार्जिन ज्यादा है उसमें, बहुत ज्यादा मार्जिन है. एंड नाउ दे आर ऑल्सो सेलिंग गैल्वनाइज्ड प्रोडक्ट्स एज वेल, विच इज नॉट बैकवर्ड इंटीग्रेटेड. तो ऑल्दो वो वैल्यू एडेड प्रोडक्ट है, बट दैट हैज अ लोअर मार्जिन. सो वेटेड एवरेज जो है मार्जिन का कम हो गया है. That's a simple reason, which was given in the last call. In fact, the CFO gives this reason again in this call. But the promoter, okay, did not respond to this. In fact, what he goes on to say कि आप, I think कि आप, why don't you come and meet one to one? I think something like that he says यहाँ पे. But yeah, I would like to invite you to a plant visit and check what exactly ये वो. So I mean, this is all good. He's trying to please the man. He's pleased the investing community. Yeah, you can come and check and wo, which is good. But it also kind of reflects a slightly negative thing. Are you going to share something with only one person who's going to, it's a public company, you're going to share something which is to only one person who visits your plant, right? So the information should be out in the open. Okay, that is one. And the other is question answer nahi kiya. So my was ki, that's why the comment key is the promoter really plugged in, and the promoter is actually paying himself like 3.3 CR 40 lakh in compensation. Okay, सो एंड कॉम्पेंसेशन काफी इंक्रीज भी हुआ है अगर आप एनुअल रिपोर्ट देखो. तो एनी विच वेज, तो मेरे को ये सेंस लगा कि सिंपल क्वेश्चन था, तो प्रॉब्ली ही मे नॉट हैव हर्ड हिम करेक्टली इफ आई गिव हिम द बेनिफिट ऑफ द डाउट. एनीवे, नाउ लेट्स सो दैट वाज वन. द अदर इज, लेट मी जस्ट मूव फॉरवर्ड. तो एक अगेन क्वेश्चन दैट इज आस्क्ड कि आर यू, इन्होंने अपने इन्वेस्टर प्रेजेंटेशन में बोला है कि दे आर गाइडिंग फॉर 30% वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ. गुड दैट दे आर नाउ गाइडिंग फॉर वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ एंड नॉट रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ. तो सेइंग कि एनालिस्ट ने पूछा कि so now we have a very aggressive target of growing 30% volume over the next 2 years. Okay, तो मैनेजमेंट ने क्लैरिफाई किया CFO ने कि this is for FY26. Okay, I think what he meant is this is for the current financial year and not for the next year, although he did not complete that, but my sense is he is he revising it again. Maybe I'm reading a lot, maybe he did not mean that. Clarify कर सकते हैं, we can write to them and ask, but my sense was are they revising the guidance again? Okay, so see, I like managements जो conservatively they promise less and over deliver. Okay, not the other way around कि you over promise, share price बढ़ जाएगा and then you under deliver, share price फिर गिर जाएगा, tank करेगा. Okay, so any which way, so to each their own. तो मैं अपना सेंस बता रहा हूँ बस। ओके, नाउ लेट्स, तो ये दूसरा पॉइंट हो गया। नाउ लेट्स लुक एट समथिंग एल्स। ओके, जस्ट वन सेकंड, लेट मी लुक एट द पेज नंबर। ओके, सो द सी, तो यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन जो दैट दे आर आस्क्ड इज कि व्हाई यू आर डाइवर्सिफाइंग। ओके, so the man कि why you are diversifying into power generation, renewable power generation। सेंस क्या बनाएगा कि भाई यू आर गोइंग, अगर आप पावर जनरेशन में जा रहे हो, यू गोइंग यूज द सेम पावर फॉर योर ऑपरेशंस, बट दैट्स नॉट व्हाट ही गोज ऑन टू से। ही सेज द रीजन व्हाई वी आर getting into power generation is, we solar power generation is कि eventually we want to supply our pipes, our tubes to solar manufacturers, to plants, to EPC contractors and B2B businesses जिनके पास सोलर प्लांट्स हैं। तो इन्होंने पूछा, तो एनालिस्ट ने बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन किया कि अगर भाई तुम्हें यही करना है, तो इसका ये मतलब थोड़ी कि तुम अपना सोलर प्लांट खुद सेटअप कर लोगे। तुम सोलर कंपनीज को सप्लाई करो, यू सप्लाई टू देम, डजंट मीन दैट यू विल क्रिएट अ सोलर प्लांट ऑफ योर ओन। Okay, so why are we, so he has, why are we allocating capital to industry which is new to us and not investing aggressively in the industry in which we are present in? Okay, secondly, renewable is not a unique industry anymore। Okay, it's a very competitive industry। Okay, plus आप उधार ले रहे हो, इनके पास उधार भी है, काफी डेट है, so you're going to pay like interest expense as well। Okay, तो again unclear response था थोड़ा। तो so again, so I just wanted to call that out कि so the, and I think analyst में later, I'm just looking for, I'm sorry, yeah, कि again analyst ने direct question किया again diversification में। So again he, the promoter, I wasn't convinced with the response। If you read through the response here, okay, they said, why don't you come and meet us in person? Okay, at the risk of repetition again, probably he's trying to make a good impression on the investing community, which is good if his intentions are noble। Okay, but if I be too critical, then on the flip side, it is, are you going to share something exclusive with that person and not with the broader investing community? And yeah, and plus तो एक ये हो जाता है। ओके, तो and the analyst also suggests कि आप भाई अपना solar power generation, why you're getting into solar power generation, instead you would get into related industry like manufactures stainless steel pipes, seamless pipes। okay, तो MD ने कहा कि yeah, that's a good suggestion। okay, probably we can explore that as well। तो मुझे लगा कि although yeah, this is fine, but सब कुछ तो नहीं करोगे ना आप, क्या ये भी करेंगे? First you focus, you become a master of what you're trying to do, and then you diversify। that's how you should, that's the way it should work, right? So anyways, I just wanted to kind of take you through my thought process। Of course it's subjective, okay, लेकिन मैं ये सब ढूंढता हूँ when I look at con calls to assess the quality of the management through con calls। ठीक है, let's move back। Right, so with that we've concluded the management quality assessment। तो so तो हमने इससे conclude कर दिया fundamental analysis portion as well। okay, तो if you recall, बस हमारा अभी valuation बचा है, so let's just look through कि आप value कैसे करोगे। okay, तो अगर आप, if I go back to the first page of this slide deck, okay, तो हमने हमने we looked at industry analysis कैसे करना है, we looked at fundamental analysis कैसे करना है। okay, okay, and how industry analysis helps with fundamental analysis, that we also looked at। And the last piece of the puzzle is valuation। Okay, again we're not going to get into full throttle valuation। Two things that we need to see is, one is relative valuation, okay, and how to use relative valuation to compute a return, and the second thing is we'll use reverse DCF। okay, I'll demonstrate a reverse DCF ये कैसे करते हैं। I'm okay to share my spreadsheet with you as well। okay, hope you're finding my content valuable। If you're an investor interested in learning thorough fundamental analysis and valuation, or if you're an aspiring equity research analyst, okay, who is interested in learning these skills to get into such roles, then I have a program suited to your needs। Okay, so in my program, I cover quality and well researched content। Okay? I cover diverse industries, okay? And the topics that I teach in this program through live exercise and case studies are financial statements। I also teach you how to analyze and interpret financial and operating ratios. It's pretty extensive, okay? And how to assess the forensics and how to analyze the quality of the management, how to read con calls and annual reports, okay? How to analyze an industry and how to size the market, okay? How to assess moats in a business, financial modeling, and valuation. And I also help you to form and articulate your investment thesis. So if you're someone who thinks who will be benefited by this program, then feel free to reach out to me at my email or reach out to me on LinkedIn. All right. Thank you. All right. So first, look at relative valuation. So if you look at this last metric यहाँ पे, EV by EBITDA, okay. So not getting, see, PE. So in industries जो capital intensive होती हैं and which take a lot of debt to fund their operations, so you should not look at PE. You should look at EV by EBITDA. Okay, that's a better metric. EV EBITDA or EV EBITDA. Okay, so if you see Hariom, their EV by EBITDA is 8. मतलब they are trading at 8 times their EBITDA right now. Okay, last year they were trading at 14 times EBITDA, which has declined to 8 times EBITDA. Okay, APL Apollo on the other hand, इनका मल्टीपल एक्सपैंड किया है. It has kept on expanding from 30 to 37. Okay? In fact, JTL and Hi-Tech, okay, they are at 15 का level. तो हरिओम optically looks massively undervalued. अगर मैं सिर्फ ये if I just look at this relative multiple, okay, if I just look at it relative multiple कि यार ये तो massively undervalued है, पैसा डाल दो इसमें. Okay, that's the impression that you get, right? Okay, okay. Now, okay, so अभी हम reverse DCF करेंगे, okay? लेकिन there is a reason why it's trading at such a multiple is because see it may be undervalued. अभी हम reverse DCF करेंगे तो हम देखेंगे, लेकिन reason is कि despite a higher margin, they are not doing a good job at working capital. Their ROIC is pretty low. Okay, or plus some of the decisions the management has taken in the past regarding diversification. So I don't think they're, at least to me, they're not kind of exuding the kind of confidence that they should to a prospective investor. Okay, so that may be the reasons why थोड़ा low multiple है. लेकिन अभी हम reverse DCF करेंगे. A lot of big investors they are pouring their money in the stock. Let me in fact go to screener. To screener. Okay, so Hariom pipe मैंने pull किया है. So if I just do a select EV by EBITDA, okay, so you see they were trading at 20 multiple. Now they are at 8. So the multiple has been on the decline, 8.6 to be precise. That's what the multiple is trading at right now. Okay, and if you see, if I look at the shareholder, okay, if I look at Malabar India Fund, Malabar is run by Sumit Nagar, someone I really respect. Okay, so I think Sumit Nagar is a great investor. So he has put in a lot of capital. In fact, he has taken more than 9% stake in the company. Okay, last year. Okay, so have some public investors like Sundar Iyer and and Vanjana Sundar Iyer. Okay, so they have taken like sizable stake in this business. Okay, see, अगर आप केवल मल्टीपल देखो, अभी हम देखेंगे कि मल्टीपल फेयर है कि नहीं, वो अलग बात है, लेकिन पीयर से अगर कंपेयर करो, ये मल्टीपल कहाँ गया, मल्टीपल पेयर से अगर ये मल्टीपल कंपेयर करो तो ये काफी लो है. तो आप क्या सोचते हो, कि री रेटिंग हो जाएगा. री रेटिंग का मतलब क्या हुआ? सी देयर आर टू वेज यू कैन यू कंप्यूट रिटर्न. वन इज कि कंपाउंडिंग रिटर्न होगा. The other is re-rating. Let's try to understand both compounding and re-rating, and a combination of both compounding and re-rating will give you a total return. तो ये थोड़ा समझते हैं. Let's try to understand this. तो अभी का मल्टीपल इज 8.5. okay, so 8 ले लेते हैं just समझाने के लिए. okay, so any which ways you can see this is the latest EBITDA, which is 135. okay, so 135 is the latest EBITDA. okay, so let's use this to let me go to my Excel sheet. See, there are I've opened this blank page. okay, see there are two types of how you calculate return is. First is there is compounding return. वो कैसे कैलकुलेट करोगे आप? लेट्स से अभी इनका मल्टीपल कितना है? ईवी बाय बेटा इज 8 टाइम्स. लेट्स से 5 साल बाद 1 2 3 4 5 साल में इनका ईवी बाय बेटा अज्यूम कर लेते हैं कि इनका ईवी बेटा इट्स द सेम 8. दे ट्रेड 8 टाइम्स बेटा. ओके, सो इफ दैट हैपेंस, और अभी बाय द वे व्हाट इज देयर, लेट मी जस्ट डू दिस. आई थिंक इट्स बेटर. So this is EV by EBITDA, and what is the EBITDA? Sorry, EBITDA is 135, right? Okay, so assume कर लेते हैं कि जो ग्रोथ रेट होगा that will be, assume कर लेते हैं कि they'll grow by 15% every year. 15% का ग्रोथ दिखाएंगे every year, assume कर लेते हैं. okay, तो EBITDA 30% वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ बोला है नेक्स्ट 2 ईयर्स के लिए, लेकिन अज्यूम करते हैं 15% वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ, समझाने के लिए बोल रहा हूँ कि 15% वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ, एबिटा ग्रोथ फॉर द नेक्स्ट 5 ईयर्स। ओके, तो कैसे करोगे आप? okay? okay? तो इसे मैं कंपाउंड कर रहा हूँ, जस्ट कंपाउंडिंग 135 विद 15%। ओके, सो सो द एबिटा फ्रॉम 135 बिकम्स 352। okay? तो मेरा ईवी कितना हो जाएगा? ईवी कितना हो जाएगा एट द एंड ऑफ 5 ईयर्स? एट द एंड ऑफ 5 ईयर्स माई ईवी वुड बी 350 टाइम्स 8। okay? So that means अभी इंटरप्राइज वैल्यू कितनी है इनकी? इंटरप्राइज वैल्यू इज 175 टाइम्स 8, सो 1400 CR से EV will double to 2800 CR, which again is of course a compounding growth of 15%. So this is compounding return. Simple. Okay, that is one. Now, the reason I think why investors are pounding money in this company is not only compounding return but re-rating. That is another form of return, re-rating. A combination of both compounding and re-rating से आपको total return you can get. Okay. Okay. So same चीजें हैं, with the exception कि your EV EBITDA multiple, okay, instead of it would, let's say, re-rate to a multiple of 15, which is the multiple at which other peers, I'm not talking about APL Apollo, I'm talking about JTL and hi-tech, they are trading at 15 times EBITDA. तो अगर अज्यूम कर लेते हैं उनका मल्टीपल ये रीच कर लेता है 5 साल में, 3 साल में, जो भी, तो क्या होगा? तो ईवी कितना हो जाएगा इनका? ये तो ईवी एबिटा हो गया, ये ईवी एबिटा हो गया। सो ईवी एबिटा इंक्रीजेस फ्रॉम 8 to 15, 8 से 15 हो गया। ईवी कितना हो गया? ईवी कितना हो गया? 115 टाइम्स 350। सो you see EV from 1400 becomes 5300। अगर सिर्फ कंपाउंडिंग रिटर्न की बात करें तो ईवी केवल डबल हो रहा था 15% से, लेकिन इफ वी एड री रेटिंग एंड कंपाउंडिंग बोथ, तो ईवी क्या हो रहा है? तो हम रिटर्न कंप्यूट करते हैं, तो रिटर्न आई थिंक 30% होगा, या 30%। सो सो इन्वेस्टर्स आर एक्सपेक्टिंग कि री रेट होगा, तो नॉट ओनली they'll get compounding but they'll get re-rating return as well। okay, re-rating मतलब एग्जैक्ट मल्टीपल होगा 15। okay, दिस इज करंट मल्टीपल, और ये एट द एंड ऑफ ईयर 5 या ईयर 3 जो भी ले लो, तो re-rating हुआ, so you'll get benefit of re-rating। so that's what investors are baking in। okay, कि इतना रिटर्न का पोटेंशियल है if these guys do certain things right। okay, प्लस there is another form, ये तो दो रिटर्न हो गए, this is compounding return plus re-rating plus compounding। the third is dividend। so if they give dividend, let's say if they give 1% dividend, any company, so the 30 will become 31। okay, so that's how you compute return। you have to look at compounding, re-rating plus compounding, and any dividend yield जो कंपनी टिपिकली देती है या बोल रही है कि कोई डिविडेंड पे आउट देगी, तो you can add the dividend yield as well। so that's how you compute the return। okay, yeah, all right, now let's get down to the last section of this video, which is reverse DCF। okay, so reverse DCF, uh, you do reverse DCF when you need to ascertain ki what is the growth rate at which this business needs to grow in order for it to justify its current शेयर प्राइस। ओके, मतलब किस ग्रोथ रेट पे एक बिजनेस ग्रो करना चाहिए अपने आज के शेयर प्राइस को जस्टिफाई करने के लिए। ओके, सो आई हैव अ मॉडल व्हिच, सो आई विल डेमोंस्ट्रेट एज टू हाउ यू कैन यूज द मॉडल। एंड इट्स वेरी easy peasy, there's some 9-10 small steps, that small inputs that you need to provide to that model। okay, and that model will spit out a growth rate। ठीक है, so and yeah, you don't have to take any assumptions, just pull the financials of the business and just plug in those financials in the model। okay, so it's pretty straightforward। Okay. So let me pull that model up। All right, so I have the model up। Okay. So if you see column B, okay, these are the set of inputs that the model needs। okay, so there are what, around 10 inputs। okay, again, don't get overwhelmed, pretty straightforward inputs। okay, and then this column C, you have the guide as to how you can go about and fill those inputs। okay, and then column D is where you'll plug the actual input values। okay, and then here what I have is, in column F, this is just how the model behaves, how the underlying DCF model, okay, behaves, और क्या assumptions लेता है। okay, this is what यहाँ पे मैंने मेंशन किया है. All right. So now let's just go ahead and pull the inputs. Okay? So the first input is revenue. Pretty straightforward. Just pull the TTM, last trailing 12 months ka revenue. Okay. So this I've already pulled in. So the company uh, that we are doing a reverse DCF on is Hari Om Pipes. Okay. So uska latest revenue FY25 ka is this much, which I've pulled in ahead of time. Okay? And then you have the EBIT margin, operating margin. Okay. So if you so how you can do that? In Screener, you have the EBITDA, okay, which is 175. Okay. So that from that 175, we have removed the depreciation, and that's how you've got, and then we have expressed this as a percentage of revenue. So the EBIT is 9.2%. Okay. And then the third input is invested capital. Let me show as to how you can estimate invested capital. Let me go to Screener and show you कि invested capital कैसे estimate कर सकते हैं. Okay. Let me move to Screener. Just pulled open Hari Om Pipes. Okay, so let's go straight to the balance sheet. We are in the balance sheet section, so we need the last balance sheet, okay, the latest one. Okay, so now let me show you what items you need to pick. Okay, so let's start with the asset portion. Let me just pick up my pen real quick. Okay, so first thing that you need is, okay, you need fixed assets. You need CWIP. So that is these two items. You need for working capital, you need to pick your inventory, your trade receivables. You do not pick cash. Okay, you pick loan advances and you pick other asset items as well. Okay, so you add all these items in pink. Okay, you add all these items in pink. Okay, and then you move to the liability side. Okay, let me take a different pen for liabilities. We pick orange. Okay, so from your liability side, okay, you pick trade payables, advance from customers, other liability items. So basically all these three items. Okay, and then you net out. So whatever you got by summing up these items in pink, you net out the ones that you have in orange. So basically you net out liabilities from your assets. Okay, so that's how you'll get to your invested capital. Okay, so what we have done basically is we have first we added net fixed assets. Okay, then current liabilities. From that we added current assets, and then from that we remove current liabilities. That's how you get to invested capital. So this is what we have done. Okay. All right. So if you do this math, so the answer, the invested capital would be closer to around 924. You can also do the same calculation from the balance sheet of the company itself. All right. So let's plug this 924 in our model and move forward. Okay. Right. So we are back to in our model. So if you see invested capital, yahan pe, we have plugged this in. Okay. The next step is you need to estimate capital efficiency. Sorry, you need to estimate capital efficiency. What you need to do is you just need 920. You already have the revenue 1357. Just divide it by 924, and you get the capital efficiency, which is 1.5. So what does capital efficiency mean? Uh, for every rupee of capital that you're investing in the business, you're getting 1.5 rupees in return as revenue. So Hari Om ka capital efficiency is on the lower side vis-a-vis their peers. Okay. Then the next set of inputs are debt and cash. So I already have pulled in debt and cash ahead of time. Straightforward pull from the balance sheet. Okay. Then the next input is forecast period. Okay. This forecast period, you need to make some judgment. Okay. So let's say if you are doing a reverse DCF on a company which you think has a long growth runway ahead of itself, then you may want to give it a forecast period of 10 years, 15 years. Okay. Uh, but by the way, let's say if you're valuing, let's say HUL or any company which is deeply penetrated in the market, doesn't have a lot of growth, okay, then you may just want to give it a growth period of 5 years. Okay, all right. But this company, we believe, has a good growth runway ahead of itself, given the massive under penetration of steel right now, given the massive infrastructure real estate development which we expect to happen. So right now I've given it a forecast period of 15. By the way, this model is configured to work for 15 years. I have to make it more configurable to work it for other growth forecast periods as well. Okay, so 15 मैंने डाल दिया. Then the next is discount rate. Okay, discount rate, think of this as a minimum return expectation that you expect from your investment in a company. Minimum return expectation. Okay, so let's say if you're valuing a large cap, you're doing a reverse DCF on large cap, then you put 10%. For a mid cap, you can put 11%. This is just a thumb rule. No, nothing hard and fast. Okay, for a small cap, you take 12%. For micro cap, you can take 13%, and so on and so forth. So this being a small cap, I have taken 12%. Okay, but feel free to change it. Okay, but don't go crazy on this, because the reverse DCF would be very sensitive on the discount rate. Okay, So then the next set of inputs would be number of shares and then the per share value. So per share value right now, yeah, it is right now, I think it is 388. Okay. And then terminal value. So what is the growth rate at which you think the business will grow beyond 15 years? Okay. Once it has saturated the market, once it has fully penetrated the market, then what is the growth rate beyond the forecast period at which it will grow? So मैंने 6% ले लिया है, which is closer to the GDP growth rate. Okay. And then the last input is the is a this is just a hit and trial input. Okay? तो आपको करना क्या है? What you need to do is you need to try multiple growth rates in this particular cell, okay, until the calculated share price okay, is close enough to the per share value which is 388. तो आपको यहाँ पे hit and trial करना है यहाँ पे. तो अभी 20% plugged in है. तो बेसिकली मॉडल क्या बोल रहा है कि अगर दिस कंपनी, इफ लेट्स से दिस कंपनी ग्रोज एट 20% फॉर नेक्स्ट 15 years, देन द फेयर शेयर वैल्यू ऑफ दिस बिजनेस, फेयर शेयर पर शेयर वैल्यू वुड बी 453 रुपीस. ओके. तो हमें क्या करना है? हमें ग्रोथ रेट को कम करना है. So if I reduce the growth rate, see the value of this business falls. Let's say if I plug in 18%, okay, then the calculated share price from the underlying model is pretty close to the current per share value, which is 388. Okay. So what does it mean? इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि so in order for this business to justify its current share price of 388, okay, this business needs to grow at roughly 18% for the next 15 years. That's the response. That's the output of this reverse DCF. Okay. अब आपको सोचना है, then you have to think, do you think can this business grow at 18%? If you think that this business will not grow at 18%, this is too high a growth rate for this business, okay, then your conclusion should be the market capitalization of this business is overvalued. The business is overvalued. Okay. But if you think the business will grow at 18% or even higher than 18%, then तब तो this business, as per your conclusion, should be कि this business is undervalued. Okay. तो वो आपको judgment खुद लेना है. Okay. You got to make your own judgments. Okay. And also, you see, you can plug and play with other inputs as well. So if you think right now the underlying assumption is that the capital efficiency of this business is 1.5, but let's say the business is able to work on its working capital, it's able to reduce its working capital, then what will happen is the capital efficiency of this business will increase, let's say to 2. Then what will happen is you see the calculated share price jumps. Okay. So if I now reduce the growth rate to 15%, or let's say even 14% or 12%, so as I'm reducing the growth rate, the share price is falling. So let's say if I reduce to 11%, if I reduce to 11%, the fair share price is 400. If I reduce it to further, so what the model is telling me now is if the business is able to improve upon its working capital, okay, is becoming more capital efficient in the future, okay, then the business needs to grow only at 10.5% over the next 15 years in order for it to justify its current share value. Okay. तो ये बोल रहा है model. So basically what you can do is you can play with these series of inputs, okay, based upon your understanding of the business. You can play with these inputs to arrive at your conclusion. Okay. And then make a decision whether you want to invest in this company or not. All right. Okay. So hope this was helpful. So guys, hopefully यार ये helpful हुआ होगा. Okay. Let's just summarize कि हमने क्या क्या देखा. So just to summarize what we saw, in order to do a thorough fundamental analysis and value a business, what you need to do is आपको industry analysis पहले करना है. Industry analysis के कुछ steps होते हैं. Total addressable market ascertain करना है. Segment करना है market. You need to find out कि tailwinds, headwinds क्या हैं, वो आपको पढ़ने हैं, समझने हैं. Understanding the industry cyclical or structural. How is the competition and what is the respective market share of different competitors in the industry. Value chain समझना, it's very important because that will help you understand, do fundamental analysis. And then I've already given you a framework that you can use to assess moat in a business. And you also now know how value chain understanding helps in assessing moat. Okay. We also looked at financial and operating ratios and what specific ratios you need to look at in a commodity business. We looked at that. We also very quickly we looked at how to read earning call transcripts. In fact, I have a detailed video that I'll post the link in the description that you can see to further understand this topic. And then we also saw how can you assess management quality from con calls. Okay, that we saw. Okay, the last segment is we also saw how can you value a business. We looked at relative valuation, how you can use it to compute the return. हमने वो देखा. And then we also looked at reverse DCF. And I demonstrated how a DCF works and how we can use it to estimate कि the company is fairly valued or or not. Okay, तो आप use कर सकते हो model. Okay, hope guys this was helpful. Okay, thank you. Hope you are finding my content valuable. If you are an investor interested in learning thorough fundamental analysis and valuation, or if you're an aspiring equity research analyst, okay, who is interested in learning these skills to get into such roles, then I have a program suited to your needs. Okay, so in my program, I cover quality and well-researched content. Okay? I cover diverse industries. Okay, and the topics that I teach in this program through live exercise and case studies are financial statements. I also teach you how to analyze and interpret financial and operating ratios. It's pretty extensive. Okay. And how to assess the forensics and how to analyze the quality of the management, how to read con calls and annual reports, okay? How to analyze an industry and how to size the market. Okay. How to assess moats in a business, financial modeling, and valuation. And I also help you to form and articulate your investment thesis. So if you're someone who thinks who will be benefited by this program, then feel free to reach out to me at my email or reach out to me on LinkedIn. All right. Thank you.